You practice immortality. I cultivate the land. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 401, Instant Arrow Technique. The great secret realm was right in front of him, and Xuan just wanted to sow seeds. He performed the earth-inducing technique, and the secret realm's spiritual soil surged, quickly forming strips of spiritual fields. Then, he came to a spiritual field, and put the newly acquired 13 sword-raising good spiritual seeds into the cracks. With a movement of spiritual power, strands of pure spiritual rain fell, fully nourishing the good spiritual seeds in the shallow layer of the spiritual soil. Afterwards, he took out some low-grade second-hand flying swords bought at a low price from his storage bag and evenly placed them around the good spiritual seeds, so that they could fully absorb the remaining sword intent inside. Then, Xuan planted 5 flame fruit and ice radish fruit spiritual seeds near the spring and the flame hill respectively. These 10 second-grade spiritual fruits have a strong experimental nature, to see if they can produce mutations under the influence of the special spiritual power environment of the secret realm. After planting the 2 kinds of spiritual fruits, he took out the dark yellow date core from the gluttonous insect capsule, chose a place with the most fertile spiritual soil, and planted it. Xuan focused his mind on the Earth Emperor date spirit seed, and realized that it was absorbing the Earth spirit breath in the spirit soil, which made him feel relieved. He also planted the Vajra body spirit seed in the spirit soil. The Vajra phantom surrounding the oval spirit seed instantly condensed a lot under the nourishment of the rich spirit energy. The Vajra glared, holding the Buddhist instruments, and had a faint momentum that could shock the demons and monsters in the world. I have wronged you before. When I find incense, vows, Sanskrit and other Buddhist treasures one day, I will cultivate you well. Xuan whispered, flew over the flame hill, and a piece of charred wood fell naturally. During the fall, it seemed that it felt the extremely pure fire spirit breath on the flame hill, and the dark golden cracks on the charred wood suddenly lit up. Crack. A crisp phoenix cry seemed to sound in the void, and a pair of thumb-sized phoenix phantoms rushed out from the dark golden cracks, and danced happily on the heavy flames. The phoenix shadow was flying faster and faster, causing the various colored flames below to move without wind and point to the location of the shadow. You are like dry wood and raging fire, igniting as soon as you touch it. Seeing this, Xuan couldn't help but sigh. Transplanting the 6th grade phoenix tree to the secret realm should be the most correct choice. Due to its grade, it has extremely high requirements for the aura of the fire spirit, and it needs the nourishment and cultivation of the 3rd grade or higher strange fire. Before, it was left in the branch of the earth fire in the cave, which could only be regarded as barely maintaining its normal growth. Now, it is like a fish in water in the secret realm. After planting all the spiritual plants, Xuan communicated with the wood demon spirit in the secret realm, activated the bronze array plate, and returned to the array hall in chaos. Finally, I'm back to the sect. With the large-scale teleportation array arranged by the array hall and the corresponding array plate, it is relatively convenient to travel between the secret realm and the sect. Xuan sighed. After returning to the foot of the cave, in just 1 or 2 days, he actually felt unreal, as if he were in another world. From now on, I will be a spiritual plant master with 3 spiritual fields. 1 plant various unorthodox and strange spiritual plants, 1 specializes in cultivating high-level spiritual plants, and 1 plant regular spiritual plants. The division of labor is clear. He inspected the spiritual field, performed various basic spells, sword tactics and sword formations, and carefully cultivated them to meet the spiritual needs of all the spiritual plants in the cave. The 4th grade arrow vine, the spiritual power simulates the form of arrows to cultivate them, which can only be said to have its form, but not its spirit. I have to find a way to get a real arrow related spell to cultivate them well. The arrow vine itself has its own strangeness, and the grade is 4th grade, so the light ball reward is likely to be considerable. Therefore, Xuan attaches great importance to these 4 mutant arrow vines, and is determined to exchange for an arrow-related spell in the Tibetan Gold Pavilion and carefully cultivate them. Half a day later, Xuan returned to the cave with a grey-black jade slip in his hand. This jade slip was exchanged for him at the cost of nearly 300 sword seals, and it records a spell called Instant Arrow Technique. The grade is the 3rd grade. After successful practice, one can instantly stimulate invisible spiritual energy arrows. The attack is powerful and extremely fast. It can be shot from different angles, making it hard to defend against. Lu Xuan placed the jade slip against his forehead, and his spiritual consciousness probed into it. A large amount of information poured into his sea of consciousness. After several days of hard practice, he was finally able to barely release an invisible energy arrow. Lu Xuan came to the arrow vine seedling excitedly, and his spiritual power operated according to the instant arrow technique. After a while, a faint spiritual energy ripple appeared in front of him, and a translucent energy arrow as thick as a finger was slowly generated. Lu Xuan was delighted, and the translucent energy arrow in front of him almost dissipated directly. He tried hard to control the energy arrow, and flew to the arrow vine seedling, and rubbed it, and entered the blue-black vine inexplicably. Many arrows the size of rice grains have already grown on the arrow vine seedlings. After the air arrows entered the vines, many of the rice-sized arrows made a slight tinkling sound, and after a few shots, they stopped and remained motionless. Did my fellow disciple in the Sutra library give me the wrong jade slip? This is also called instant arrow technique. Slow arrow technique is still a level lower. Well, the archery technique that allows the opponent to react instantly must have been named like this. Lu Xuan directly passed the buck, not expecting that with his true qualifications. It was already unexpected that he could perform it smoothly within a few days. He came to the other 3 arrow vine spirit seeds, condensed a small air arrow from each of them, and slowly penetrated into the spirit seed. After taking care of all the spiritual plants in the spirit field, Lu Xuan decided to go to the small courtyard in Xuan town. He currently has a large amount of highly contaminated yaoni meat, as well as 18 Kai and Kyuhan spirit seeds, and a meat spirit god that is being nurtured, which must be properly arranged. In addition, the previously mature thorn bones, ghost-faced stone mushrooms, and 100-eyed strange wood will see if they can be used. I wonder what the current situation of the underworld spiritual plants in the courtyard is. Lu Xuan made all kinds of preparations, drove an ordinary 3rd grade flying sword, flew out of the sect, and came to the nearby Xuan town. After purchasing some cultivation resources as usual, he came to the outside of the courtyard. After confirming that the 1,000 illusion clouds and smoke array had not suffered any damage, Lu Xuan was relieved, opened the array, and entered the courtyard. As soon as he entered the courtyard, a strong yin energy rushed over. The evil cry of a baby came to his ears, and a skinny grey-black baby flashed by, and disappeared into the holy infant fruit plant in an instant. A blood-red hand limped to his feet, and climbed onto Lu Xuan's calf, as if trying to suck his blood from a distance. Next to him, the branches and leaves of a tall peach tree rustled. It looked delicate and beautiful, but the piles of white bones under the tree exposed its true face. TSK. Having just experienced the beauty and purity of the secret realm not long ago, Lu Xuan felt a huge shock when he suddenly entered this small courtyard with gusts of cold wind and wailing resentful souls. It's too hellish. We can't pollute the secret realm. He originally had the idea of moving the underworld spiritual plants into the secret realm, but after seeing this scene, his idea disappeared immediately. Chapter 402, The Holy Infant Fruit Plant About to Mature. With this thought in mind, Lu Xuan came to the Ishao Panteo spiritual plant. The peach tree had grown to more than 1 person tall. It looked very ordinary from the outside, unlike the 3rd grade Mixon peach, which had its own charming atmosphere. However, when you get close to the spiritual plant, you can smell an alluring fragrance coming from the branches and leaves. It's like the unique milk fragrance of a baby, which makes people want to get close. But after getting close, the spiritual consciousness was keenly aware that the vitality in the body seemed to flow to the peach tree involuntarily. Lu Xuan mobilized the spiritual power in his body to stop this momentum, seizing the vitality of the cultivators and monsters for use. No wonder the mature spiritual fruit can increase lifespan. He couldn't help but sigh and came to the 5th grade blood evil flower. The hollow blood ball was much larger than before, and countless slender blood vessels were densely woven together. Sensing Lu Xuan's approach, it kept wriggling and protruding a section, like a leech with an extreme desire for blood. Through the numerous blood vessels, there is a different world inside the blood bowl. The boundless sea of blood is floating and sinking, and in the middle, an extremely bright blood-colored flower quietly blooms, isolated from the world and independent. Give me a sip, please. Countless thin blood vessels extended to Lu Xuan like tentacles, and a strong suction came from the tip, causing the blood in Lu Xuan's body to surge slightly. Lu Xuan flicked his hand, and more than 10 white jade bottles flew out of the storage bag. One after another, blood essence poured down like a stream, and poured on the hollow blood bowl. All the thin blood vessels sensed the vigorous blood and ki contained in the dragon's blood essence, and instantly became active, scrambling to grab it. Don't worry, you have it too. He put a white jade bottle filled with dragon blood essence on the ground, and the blood spirit palm ginseng that had been circling around him immediately crawled over, gathered its finger-shaped crimson branches together, stretched into the bottle, and sucked the blood essence to its heart's content. Fortunately, there are a lot of stocks left after the blood tests on the dragons, otherwise it would be difficult to satisfy you two bloodsuckers. The blood sin flower and the blood spirit palm ginseng, one is the 5th grade and the other is the 4th grade, both have a large demand for blood essence. If it weren't for the stable supply of many dragons and chillungs in Qian Long Lake, feeding them would be a problem. Speaking of which, I haven't been to Qian Long Lake for a while. I have time to check those dragon cubs to ensure that they grow up healthy and happy. Lu Xuan smiled slightly. In the corner of the courtyard, the filthy insect grass has grown a lot, with a strange shape, like countless insect corpses compressed together, and a strong filthy smell can be felt from a distance. This courtyard is quite suitable for the filthy insect grass, with all kinds of residual blood and flesh, ghosts, and resentment, filthy things and filthy air. He circulated his spiritual power, and gathered a bunch of filthy things around the filthy insect grass. Finally, Lu Xuan came to the holy infant fruit plant. The holy infant fruit plant has entered the mature stage. When Lu Xuan entered the courtyard, he saw a grey-black thin baby passing by. At the top of the plant, a spiritual fruit similar to an embryo was produced, and a hideous baby could be vaguely seen inside. Sensing Lu Xuan's sight, the baby stared with empty eyes, as if looking at him, but when he looked closely, it disappeared without a trace, and turned into a hazy grey-black gas mass. Lu Xuan focused his mind on the holy infant fruit plant, and found that the progress bar below was about to be filled. The nest has been made. The holy infant fruit mother hidden in the dark should have thought that the fish was about to be hooked, but she didn't expect that it would be a big fish. Lu Xuan had a blank expression on his face, and sneered in his heart. This holy infant fruit is just a daughter plant, and there is a complete 5th grade mother plant behind it. As a spiritual plant master, Lu Xuan coveted the 5th grade spiritual plant. As for the risks involved, he was absolutely sure that he could easily deal with the monks behind the spread of the holy infant fruit plant. The monk thought he was hiding in the dark, but he didn't know that Lu Xuan had already understood the mystery. The enemy was in the open, but we were in the dark. In addition, Jianmen Town was located near Xianji Insect, and there were powerful monks to support at any time. Shenye, who was in the late stage of foundation building in Jiantang, and the 3 true disciples Jepu, Huo Liner, and Zhang Jingshan, all had a deep friendship with Lu Xuan. With the 2 guardian spirit beasts Xuanshan Bailuan and Baiyu Qingshan, even if the foundation building was perfect, they could be easily dealt with. In addition, there was the jade sword talisman left by Gujiang Kong, the real person of the sect, who had the right to summon a giant and monk once. Under many factors, it could be guaranteed to be foolproof. Thinking of this, Lu Xuan was completely relieved. He took out the ghost mud meat from the storage bag and placed it under the Yishao Panteo. In the perception of the spiritual consciousness, a large pile of ghost mud meat had buds on the surface, which were connected to the roots of Yishao Panteo and slowly merged into the roots of the peach tree. The milky smell of the peach tree in the small courtyard became stronger and stronger, as if it was going to absorb all the vitality of his whole person. Lu Xuan gathered his mind, found an empty space in the courtyard, and took out the 18,000 Kyang hand spiritual seeds. He performed the earth attraction technique, and the black spiritual soil underneath quietly changed, revealing 18 cracks that were just right. The spiritual seed shaped like a baby's arm was taken into it, and the spiritual power surged, and strands of spiritual rain fell. His mind was focused on the spiritual seeds in the shallow layer of the spiritual soil, and suddenly, a thought came into his mind. Thousand Kyung Hand, a third-grade gregarious spiritual plant, likes to grow in a spiritual soil environment where a large number of monster limbs, claws, and cultivators gather together. It is an excellent material for refining certain evil arts. Under the influence of the powerful flesh and blood power, many thousand Kyung Hand spiritual plants undergo unknown changes, and they are connected to each other. They can instantly gather and use the power of the same kind around them to condense into a formation and work together to fight the enemy. When there are enough spiritual plants, they have a strength close to the 5th grade. In an extremely cold spiritual power environment, the branches of the spiritual plants will become slow and stagnant, greatly affecting the speed and flexibility of the spiritual plants. It seems that I need to collect more corpses of monsters. The blood, soul, limbs, and the remaining foul air inside are all very useful. Lu Xuan sighed. He opened the 1000 illusion cloud smoke array and headed for the location of Wanbao Tower. In the small courtyard with gusts of cold wind, a grey-white pupil occasionally jumped out of the void in the sky, staring coldly at the holy infant fruit plant below. Lu Xuan came to a deserted place. After confirming that it did not attract the attention of other cultivators, he took out the 1000 chapter strange face and put it on his cheek. Suddenly, a sense of coldness spread from the 5 senses to the limbs. Lu Xuan's mind moved, quietly changed the appearance of the 5 senses, and turned into an ordinary looking young cultivator. He quickly came to the Wanbao Tower. As soon as he entered, a pretty woman came to meet him. Her spiritual consciousness slightly swept over Lu Xuan, and her expression suddenly changed. "Senior, what can I do for you?" Lu Xuan looked stern, nodded slightly, and said, "Call out the owner of your Wanbao Tower. I have a high-grade treasure that needs him to deal with." "Yes." After a few breaths, a round-faced old man came to him with a warm smile. "This fellow Taoist is a little unfamiliar. Is this your first time in Wanbao Tower?" Chapter 403 Helping Hands. "There are some evil things that need to be dealt with," Lu Xuan said indifferently. "This is not a place to talk. Please follow me, fellow Taoist." The round-faced honest old man narrowed his eyes and smiled as he led Lu Xuan to the 3rd floor of Wanbao building. A quiet and elegant room, a dark yellow incense stick. The smoke filled the air, the smell of which made people feel peaceful. After a monk from Wanbao building served spiritual fruits and tea, he tactfully withdrew. "I got rid of several evil cultivators before, and got some evil materials from them. There is no use for me to keep them, so I want to come to Wanbao building to exchange for some resources," Lu Xuan said, and took out 2 strange spiritual plants from the storage bag. One plant looked like a huge mushroom made of stone, with strange patterns on the surface. At first glance, it looked like a weird face. The other plant was a small cluster of thorns, each section of which looked like a dead bone, cold and awe-inspiring, and looked extremely sharp. Ghost-faced stone mushrooms, 3rd grade spiritual plants, are the main materials for refining some evil elixirs. And thorn bones, which are quite rare in the cultivation world. They are the best materials for refining puppets, and can also be used to refine some evil magic tools. The round-faced old man is worthy of being the owner of the Wanbao building. He is knowledgeable, and recognized the 2 kinds of underworld spiritual plants in Lu Xuan's hand at a glance. "That's right, fellow Taoist, I admire your eyesight." Lu Xuan nodded. "I want to use these 2 spiritual plants to exchange for 3rd grade demon beast corpses. The more complete the better. Every part of the demon beast corpse is of great use to him, so the more complete it is, the more satisfied he is. 3rd grade demon beast corpses. There are still a few in the building." The old man pondered for a while, and said with a smile, "The Wanbao building in Jianmen town is located near the Xianjian sect. There are many inner disciples of the Xianjian sect coming and going. The materials obtained after hunting demon beasts are handled by the Wanbao building. Therefore, although the 3rd grade demon beast corpses are precious, they are not rare." He took out a communication talisman, left a brief message, and flew out of the elegant room. Soon, relevant monks came in with materials. Daoyao, the spiritual plant in your hand, is of the 3rd grade, which is the same grade as the monster corpse, but these 2 spiritual plants are relatively rare, so let you choose first, and then give you 10 kilograms of ordinary 3rd grade monster meat. What do you think? Okay. Lu Xuan nodded. The exchange method proposed by the old man was already very good. He, who always liked to bargain, had no objection. He looked in front of several monster corpses and finally chose 2 relatively large corpses. If for nothing else, it was because there were the most monster flesh and blood on them. Lu Xuan was quite satisfied with using 2 evil spiritual plants that were not very useful to exchange for a large number of monster flesh and blood, as well as other monster parts. He restrained his breath, changed his appearance and figure in an empty corner, and came to the Bluestone Square of Giantman Town, and bought a large number of various materials with spirit stones. Back in the yard, he placed the corpse of a giant wolf monster around the root of the peach, so that it could be fully nourished for a long time, and grow up healthy and happy. Then, he took out the dark red stone from the gluttonous insect capsule, and placed the corpse of another 3rd grade monster around the stone. At first, the dark red stone did not move at all, as if the corpse of the 3rd grade monster had no attraction to him. After a while, the flesh and blood on the corpse continued to compress, and wisps of dark red efflow floated out from the inside of the corpse, and merged into the dark red stone silently. The dark red efflow had a faint bloody smell, and it was obvious at a glance that it was the essence of the flesh and blood of the corpse. After absorbing the dark red efflow, there was no reaction on the surface of the dark red stone. Lu Xuan didn't care. As long as he sucked enough flesh and blood, he didn't believe that this flesh spirit god with the potential of the 7th grade would not hatch. After leaving a large amount of monster materials, Lu Xuan drove the flying sword back to the sect's cave. After inspecting the spiritual field, Lu Xuan came to the Yin Yang mountain, where Jepu was. Above the mountain, the pair of black and white yin and yang fish are like a Teikai pattern, blending into one, full of natural meaning. Jepu was sitting in meditation, his black and white pupils slightly rotating, his aura echoing with the yin and yang kunfish, and the black and white auras lingering around him. Junior brother Lu, you are here, a rare guest. Sensing Lu Xuan's entry, Jepu stood up and said with a smile. Lu Xuan usually stays in his cave, and it is rare to see him take the initiative to come out. I haven't seen senior brother Jeff for a long time. I miss you very much, so I came to visit. Haha, you are good at talking. I heard that the sect opened up a new blessed land a while ago, and you made great contributions in it. No, I just relied on my skills and spiritual plants to solve some trivial matters for my uncle who had formed a dan in the blessed land and my fellow disciples. Lu Xuan said modestly, your attainments in spiritual plants are already well known by most of the inner disciples of the sect, so there is no need to be modest. Tell me, what is the reason for you coming here today? Lu Xuan's expression became serious, and he said solemnly, it's like this. You know me quite well, and you know that I have a great interest in all kinds of spiritual plants. Many years ago, I got an evil spiritual plant and tried to cultivate it to see if I could enrich my cultivation experience. Unexpectedly, I succeeded in cultivating it without knowing it. However, I accidentally discovered a problem. The evil spiritual plant seemed to be a trap set by someone else. They asked me to cultivate it for them and then use the mother spiritual plant behind it to keep track of the growth of the subplants at any time, as well as observe the strength and cultivation of the spiritual plant master. Perhaps it won't be long before they will reel in their efforts and sneak into my small spiritual field. My strength is average, and I'm not good at fighting. Therefore, I came here to ask senior brother Jeff for help. I wonder if senior brother is willing. There are actually evil cultivators coveting the treasures of my Xianjian sect. Don't worry, junior brother Lu, I will definitely do my best to help you and make sure you are unharmed, and the cultivator behind the scenes will never come back. Jepu said with a firm tone. Lu Xuan once cleverly helped him solve the problem of the yin-yang kunfish breeding, allowing it to continue to reproduce. Most of his skills are related to this pair of ancient beasts. After the yin-yang kunfish was promoted to the 5th grade, he also benefited a lot from it. His cultivation progressed rapidly, and he even got a glimpse of some opportunities to form a pill. Lu Xuan asked him for help, and he naturally agreed without hesitation at the first time. Junior brother Lu, would you like me to help you invite junior brother Zhang Jingshan, who is also a true disciple? You helped him solve the problem of raising the demon sword Black Mantis, and you also made the pair of poisonous heart-eating insects that had been unable to conceive for a long time give birth to larvae successfully. He has always been very grateful to you. This is a great opportunity for me to repay you, junior brother. Besides, he has a very close relationship with me. Just say a word and he will definitely agree. Thank you very much, senior brother Jen. Lu Xuan was overjoyed. With the help of 2 true disciples and the help of 2 guardian spirit beasts, this support team was unprecedentedly powerful. Chapter 404, Cultivation Genius. After getting Jepu's promise, Lu Xuan felt much more relieved. After returning to the cave, he found an opportunity to visit Xuan and explain to him the difficulties he might encounter. After seeing Lu Xuan's terrifying attainments in spiritual plants in the Blessed Land, Xuan had always wanted to make friends with him. After learning the details, especially the possible strength of the monks behind the scenes, he readily agreed. I haven't seen the phoenix and the white ape for so long. I have to find them to get in touch with them and change my taste to taste the spiritual fruit and spiritual juice of the cave. Lu Xuan took out the silver white hair that the white jade sky supporting ape left for him and injected a trace of spiritual power. In just a few dozen breaths, a white light rushed towards the cave and came to the foot of the mountain. Before the streamer array could react, it passed through violently in an instant. A delicate and small ape appeared in front of Lu Xuan, and the ape's body was like white jade, crystal clear and flawless. A pair of fiery red gem-like pupils were looking at Lu Xuan, and after meeting his gaze, they quickly lowered their heads, looking shy and bashful. After the little monkey arrived at Lu Xuan's cave, the phoenix was unwilling to be left behind, and showed up directly on the mountain peak. Even the flowing light array at the foot of the mountain did not detect any abnormal spiritual power. Welcome, welcome. 2 Taoist friends. It's been a long time since we last met. Let's get together today and try the spiritual juice I just brewed. Lu Xuan greeted them warmly. He brought out 2 kinds of ice and fire spiritual fruits, the flaming fruit and the ice radish fruit, from the house, and also took out a few fresh and delicious fairy peaches. He poured a cup of 100 fruit spiritual juice for each of the 2 beasts and the cave beasts, and took out fresh monster meat from the storage bag. Under the refined fire control of flame art, the monster meat was quickly roasted to a crispy outside and tender inside, and the aroma was fragrant. The 100 fruit spiritual juice had been in the drunken fairy good for a long time, and the taste was even more mellow and rich. After the white jade sky supporting ape drank a few sips, a hazy and intoxicated look appeared in his eyes. When Lu Xuan brought the roasted monster meat, he showed an even more silly look. Xuan Bailun took small sips of the 100 fruit spirit juice, feeling the wonderful taste that gushed out after the spirit juice entered his mouth. He staggered as he walked, supporting himself with 2 slender legs, as if he would fall down at any time. How does it taste? Is it okay? Lu Xuan said with a smile. Xuan Bailun chirped crisply, revealing incomparable satisfaction and joy in his voice. Baihu Qingshan Yuan hid behind it, with his mouth full of monster meat, his cheeks bulging, and nodded hurriedly when he heard Lu Xuan's question. The 2 beasts are the guardian spirit beasts of the Xianjian sect. They have the potential to grow into 6th grade or even 7th grade monster beasts. They have a respected status, and usually stay in a specific secret realm, with the sect's monks serving them. Although they can eat and drink well, the food they enjoy every day is the same. Naturally, they get bored after eating too much. Unlike Lu Xuan's place, where they can eat several kinds of spiritual fruits of high quality, taste the wonderful and varied taste of the 100 fruit spiritual juice, and eat the meat of monsters cooked in various ways, all of these greatly satisfy the appetites of the 2 beasts. 2 new spiritual fruits have been planted in the cave, both of which are 4th grade and very rare. When they are ripe, I will tell you, as soon as possible, so that you can eat as much as you want. Lu Xuan drank a mouthful of the 100 fruit spiritual juice and said slowly. The phoenix and the little monkey heard this, and showed excitement on their faces at the same time. 4th grade spiritual fruits, even if they are the guardian spiritual beasts, they don't have many opportunities to taste them on weekdays. Alas, I just don't know if I can wait until the spiritual fruits are ripe. Lu Xuan sighed softly and looked into the distance with a very obvious but appropriate worry in his eyes. The phoenix and the little monkey are both very intelligent. Seeing Lu Xuan like this, they both showed a hint of doubt in their eyes, as if asking him for details. After I got a spirit seed, I worked hard to cultivate it. When it was about to mature, I accidentally discovered that it had a great relationship with the evil cultivator. That person has been paying close attention to my situation and may be unfavorable to me. I'm not good at fighting, and I can't stay in the sect all the time, so there may be danger to my life. Lu Xuan said in a low voice. Roar. As soon as the voice fell, the white jade monkey roared, and his two arms slapped his jade-like chest. A spiritual thought was transmitted to Lu Xuan's sea of consciousness, and the two beasts expressed their willingness to help Lu Xuan solve the evil cultivator who endangered his life. It is rare to meet such a good food provider, and the two beasts don't want to lose it. Then if I ask you to help me fight, will you come to help as soon as possible? Xuan Bailuan cried crisply, and his voice was firm. And the little monkey, hearing that there was an opportunity to fight, a trace of expectation flashed in his fiery red and crystal eyes, and his expression was eager to try. After getting the promise from the two beasts again, Lu Xuan felt that he had 100% confidence in solving the problem of the holy infant fruit plant. When he first saw the two beasts, they were still in their infancy, but because their innate bloodline was too terrifying, they had the strength equivalent to the foundation building realm. After growing up for more than 10 years, Lu Xuan's spiritual sense was keenly aware that the strength of the two beasts was close to that of Jepu, Zhang Jingshan and other true disciples. When they become complete, I wonder how terrible their strength will be. After eating and drinking, the two beasts lazily lay in the yard for half a day. This time, they were reluctant to leave and left Lu Xuan's cave house, looking back every step. After Lu Xuan sent them away, he came to the spiritual field to inspect and cultivate. A spiritual field covered with a shallow layer of Wuling soil. Two pine trees sensed Lu Xuan's approach and set off waves of pine waves. Lu Xuan's mind seemed to be connected with the Yunling pine, and he could feel the plant's dependence and intimacy with him. One is fully mature. Lu Xuan glanced at the translucent progress bar under the pine tree and found that one was fully mature. He was delighted and reached out to pick a green pine cone from the top of the pine tree. On the fist-sized pine cone, thin scales were stacked layer by layer, like pieces of crystal jade. Then, a white ball of light appeared at the original position of the pine cone, flickering slightly. Lu Xuan gently touched the surface of the light ball, and the light ball exploded instantly, turning into countless light points that poured into his body. Harvest a 4th grade soul enriching pine cone, and obtain the 5th grade skill Shenyanjing. A thought emerged from their minds. Countless information poured into his sea of consciousness in an instant, almost bursting his sea of consciousness. Lu Xuan stood quietly in place for a long time before completely digesting the massive amount of information in his mind. After absorbing another Shenyanjing skill experience package, he felt that he had a deeper and more thorough understanding of this skill. Many of the problems encountered in the previous practice were solved, and the obscure points suddenly became clear, as if he had been studying and immersing himself in this skill for decades. As soon as the thought came to him, Lu Xuan felt an unprecedented spiritual clarity. His mind was extremely clear, and he could clearly perceive a thin jade note in his mind emitting a faint light. I can easily master a 5th grade technique. I'm actually a genius in cultivation. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 405, Evil Trace. The skills that can increase spiritual awareness are extremely rare. At the same time, the difficulty of practicing is much higher than other magic skills and body training. It has been a while since Lu Xuan got the first Shenyanjing light ball. In his free time, he would try to practice it. Unfortunately, the skills are too profound and obscure, and the progress is slow. He didn't even get started. Unexpectedly, after absorbing another skill experience package, his progress in this skill can be said to be 1,000 miles a day. When practicing, it is smooth and natural, without any sense of stagnation. 4 soul enriching pines, 3 have matured, 3 white light balls, a 5th grade treasure soul enriching post, and 2 5th grade skills Shenyanging, which can be said to be a great harvest. Lu Xuan couldn't help but smile, looking at the last soul enriching pine plant that was about to fully mature, with strong expectations in his eyes. Unfortunately, we only found 4 soul enriching pine seeds in the ancient medicine garden of Langaihu blessed land. If there is a chance, we can go again, and see if we can find some more soul seeds. Lu Xuan returned to the house with satisfaction, and opened his palm. A crack in the palm of his hand instantly extended and enlarged, and a grey-white pupil emerged from it. The small pupil presented the vision seen by the void nightmare eye, which was hundreds of miles away, to Lu Xuan at a glance. In the small courtyard, there were gusts of cold wind. Occasionally, a grey-white pupil would quietly emerge in the sky, looking at the holy infant fruit plant under his eyes without any emotion, and then immediately disappeared silently, as if it was just an illusion. No abnormality was found. Lu Xuan said softly in his heart. After the holy infant fruit plant was getting closer and closer to maturity, Lu Xuan decided to leave the void nightmare eye in the small courtyard and monitor the movement in the small courtyard from a distance through the grey-white pupil in the palm of his hand to prevent the evil cultivator behind the scenes from sneaking into the small courtyard. After confirming that there was no abnormality, he was slightly relieved. In the blink of an eye, a month passed. Under Lu Xuan's careful care, the many spiritual plants in the spiritual field grew a lot. The 2nd grade water firefly grass began to enter the mature stage. The slender blue leaves were densely packed together, and the fluorescence flickered, as if countless stars dotted the night sky. Lu Xuan looked at them one by one, and found 44 fully mature plants from the 200 water fireflies. Because this batch of water fireflies was planted in the inner sect from beginning to end, the spiritual energy was rich, and they did not experience the pain of transplantation, so the quality was very good, and there were many good quality ones. Lu Xuan picked the 44 water fireflies, looked at the more than 40 white light balls flickering slightly in the blue leaves, and his body turned into a floating light, and picked up all the light balls in an instant. In his mind, one thought after another flashed through his mind like a horse-drawn sightseeing. Harvest a 2nd grade water firefly grass, and gain 2 years of cultivation. Harvest a 2nd grade water firefly grass, and gain the 3rd grade treasure water bead. Harvest a 2nd grade water firefly grass, and obtain the 2nd grade soul enriching pill recipe. Due to the better quality, the rewards obtained from the light balls are also higher on average. 44 water fireflies, 16 of the light balls bring cultivation rewards, 11 for 1 year, 5 for 2 years, and a total of 21 years of cultivation rewards. As the light balls were picked up one by one, the spiritual power in Lu Xuan's body surged like waves, one wave higher than the other, and the surging spiritual power rushed wildly in his body. He practiced the great 5-element gong and quickly transformed the vast amount of spiritual energy into drops of pure spiritual liquid, which fell into his danshan, instantly increasing the cultivation by more than 20 years, even if it is far from the 20 years of other cultivation geniuses due to limited talent. It can be called rapid progress. Lu Xuan sighed. There is no way, with a light ball, you can do whatever you want. For those cultivation geniuses, superior comprehension and aptitude are their talents. For me, the light ball is my talent, but the way they are presented is different. He thought calmly. Among the remaining 20 or so light balls, quite a few fairly good rewards were opened. The 3rd grade talisman water dragon talisman, the 3rd grade auxiliary magic weapon water bead, the 2nd grade soul enriching pill, the soul enriching pill recipe, etc. Although it was a bit tasteless for him who was already in the middle stage of foundation building, at least he could exchange for a lot of spirit stones. The days of farming were monotonous but fulfilling. Lu Xuan cultivated the spirit fields and raised spirit beasts day after day. In his spare time, he practiced the Shenyanging, the delusion-breaking pupil technique, and visualized the 5th grade pure yang true fire talisman. Every day, he had to observe the holy infant fruit plant in the courtyard of Jianmen town through the void nightmare eye. However, as long as he thought that the spirit plants could bloom unknown and rich light ball rewards after they matured, Xuan felt extremely satisfied with this kind of life and was happy with it. It seems to be moving. On this day, Xuan was cultivating spirit plants and carefully observing the gray-white pupils in the cracks in his palms. Suddenly, his expression became solemn, and he said with a light exclamation, "High in the sky, the void nightmare eye silently emerged from the crack. Its eyeballs turned and locked its sights on the holy infant fruit plant. Because it is located in the void and has a strong concealment ability and illusion level, the 5th grade void nightmare eye is difficult to be detected by others, which is why Xuan left it in the yard to monitor it. The embryo-like spiritual fruit was seen gushing out black air, which quickly spread, and a dry and skinny gray-black baby phantom emerged from the spiritual fruit. The gray-black baby phantom wandered aimlessly in the small yard, and suddenly, it froze in place, with a trace of resentment and viciousness in its empty eyes. Soon, it continued to wander around the small yard, looking here and there, but compared with the instinctive behavior at the beginning, it seemed much more subjective and deliberate, as if there was a consciousness hidden in the baby. I left a seedling at the auction before, and I just wanted to plant it casually, but I didn't expect to catch such a huge fish. The baby's head turned mechanically, looking at everything in the yard, and laughed sinisterly. The 4th grade blood spirit palm ginseng is a very rare spiritual plant, which can be used to practice the blood path technique. The baby's small body grabbed the blood red palm that was wandering around, and said with satisfaction, "And the 4th grade filthy insect grass can be used to refine special elixirs. The unknown spiritual soil in the yard actually contains blood and flesh power. More importantly, those 2 grades are likely to be 5th grade evil spiritual plants. If they are mature, they can be used by themselves to increase the probability of breaking through to the giant realm. Or they can be given to other cultivators in exchange for cultivation resources that help break through the giant realm." The more the baby thought about it, the more excited he felt, and his small body trembled involuntarily. Originally, he just sensed that the holy infant fruit was about to mature, so he used the mother plant to sense the position of the daughter plant and the special abilities between them, and possessed the daughter plant's spiritual fruit to observe the situation. Unexpectedly, he got a huge surprise. "It's time to close a net." The baby's mouth curled up, revealing a strange smile. Chapter 406 Fellow Daoist, please come in. It's time to close a net. Xuan looked at the gray-white pupils in his palm and said coldly. The fisherman who put the bait thought he could catch a big fish, but he didn't expect that what was waiting for him were several ferocious and bloodthirsty sharks. He immediately sent a message to Jepu's 3 true disciples, and the 3 said that they were ready and could support Xuan at any time. As for the phoenix and the little white ape, with the hair left by the white ape, the 2 beasts could be summoned at any time. In the next few days, Xuan kept observing the movements in the underworld courtyard through the void nightmare eyes. During this period, the baby phantom in the holy infant fruit plant appeared several times, and each time it showed obvious consciousness and intentionally observed the formations and arrangements in the courtyard. However, although the baby phantom has great subjective initiative, it is just an evil spiritual fruit after all, and it has no special abilities, let alone the ability to break through the 1,000 illusions and clouds array arranged by Xuan. Xuan knew that the spiritual fruit was getting closer and closer to maturity, so he contacted Jepu and others, and came to Jianmen town at the same time. The 2 true disciples, Jepu and Zhang Jingshan, were hiding in the center of the town. They could reach the courtyard in just a few breaths. As for Huoliner, he was hiding around Jianmen town, just in case. Xuan continued to monitor the movements around the courtyard all day and night through the void nightmare eye. Finally appeared. One day, Xuan noticed that a cultivator of medium build and ordinary appearance came to the vicinity of the courtyard, pretending to pass by chance, circling around the courtyard, and then quickly left. He didn't notice at all that there was a gray-white pupil that appeared and disappeared in the sky above his head, as if it was shuttling in the void, far behind him. The next day, Wei Yixin walked slowly in the alleys of Jianmen town, stopping from time to time to ask about the various cultivation treasures on the stalls. Unknowingly, he came to the vicinity of Xuan's courtyard. There will be a big harvest soon. When he thought about taking back the mature holy infant fruit plant and several other rare spiritual plants of the 4th and 5th grades, his heart was burning and his steps also quickened. With one thought, he had already learned the details of the daughter plant located here through the holy infant fruit mother plant. A small courtyard with several kinds of evil spiritual plants. There has been no trace of monks in the courtyard for a long time. I don't know if they went out to explore or it was inconvenient to stay in the courtyard. However, this has nothing to do with him. For him, it is already very good to be able to take back the holy infant fruit plant and several rare spiritual plants. Unfortunately, although his thoughts can be attached to the spiritual fruits, he has no other strange abilities. He can't move those spiritual plants out of the formation silently, and he has to go out himself once. After several observations, he has confirmed the flow law and operation trajectory of spiritual power from inside the formation, and has great confidence in breaking the formation easily. The only uncertainty is that this courtyard is too close to the Xianjian sect, only 100 miles away. If the Jinden Zenran or the true disciples inside are alarmed, it will be difficult to escape unscathed. Wei Yixin thought secretly. His own strength is at the perfect foundation building stage, which is considered powerful in the cultivation world, but in the eyes of a behemoth like the Xianjian sect, it is nothing. However, compared with the value of those spiritual plants, this little risk can be ignored. It's impossible that there is a Jinden Zenran or a true disciple staying in such an inconspicuous town, and then just happened to run into me. Wei Yixin thought secretly. He came to the front of the courtyard, looked around, and after confirming that there was nothing unusual, he took out a formation plate from his storage bag. The spiritual power on the formation plate changed, and soon covered and hid his figure. Then, he took out a high-grade forbidden breaking talisman and walked to the edge of the formation. When he was about to try to break the formation, suddenly, a voice rang out. "Fellow Daoist, this behavior is not decent enough." The spiritual power surged in the formation, and a handsome and gentle young man walked out of the yard, looking at Wei Yixin with a smile. "There is someone inside." Wei Yixin was startled, but suppressed the panic that flashed through his heart and remained calm. He probed into the small courtyard with his spiritual power, but did not find any strong aura. Looking at the handsome young man in front of him, he sensed his cultivation in the middle stage of foundation building, and felt much more at ease. "I'm really sorry, this small courtyard belongs to a good friend of mine. We haven't seen each other for many years. This time I happened to pass by here, so I thought of coming to visit him. When I came to the yard, I couldn't contact him. So I had the reckless behavior of trying to break the formation just now. If I have offended you, fellow Daoist, please forgive me. I wonder if you know the current situation of my friend?" he said sincerely. "I have only had this courtyard for a little over a decade, and I don't know much about the previous owner or owners. Therefore, I can only say sorry to you, fellow Taoist." Lu Xuan sneered in his heart, and competed with the evil monk in front of him in acting. Alas, things are unpredictable. I hope he is safe and sound, and just moved to a new place. I hope so. Your acquaintance with the previous owner of the courtyard can be regarded as a fate between the two of us. Why don't you come in and taste the spiritual fruit and tea to relieve your longing for your friend?" Lu Xuan asked proactively. "Is it suitable?" "It's suitable. It's suitable. I just brewed a spiritual tea. The newly picked tea leaves can increase spiritual power and clear your mind after taking it. It can be said to be the best." "Then I'm sorry to bother you, fellow Taoist." "Ha ha ha, fellow Taoist, please come in." Lu Xuan stood on the side of the courtyard gate and made a welcoming gesture. "Well, let's sneak attack him in the courtyard, try not to make any noise, and then escape thousands of miles away." Wei Yixin looked at Lu Xuan as if he was looking at a dead person, and then stepped into the courtyard. But he didn't notice that Lu Xuan behind him was looking at him with even more serious eyes. After entering the courtyard, Wei Yixin paused and frowned, as if he felt something was wrong. At this moment, the scene in front of him was like a flower in the mirror and a moon in the water, breaking into countless transparent fragments. Two cultivators, one tasting spiritual tea and the other chewing spiritual fruit, looked at him meaningfully. One had black and white pupils, one dark and deep, and the other pale and indifferent. The other was wearing a black robe woven from strange insects. Countless auras lingered around him, locking him deeply. The true disciple of the Xianji insect, Jepu, Zhang Jingshan. Wei Yixin felt like being poured with cold water. He felt an extreme chill from head to toe. Having experienced many life and death dangers, he couldn't help trembling all over. Jepu and the others have long been famous in the cultivation world. With their magical instruments and profound cultivation, they have killed countless evil cultivators. He never expected that there were two true disciples waiting for him in this courtyard. Chapter 407, Monkey God. Start. Just when Wei Yixin was horrified and was about to use a secret technique to escape, Jepu, who had black and white pupils, pinched a seal with one hand, and black and white spiritual power emerged instantly. A huge black and white Teikai pattern quietly emerged under Wei Yixin's feet, covering a radius of 100 meters, with him as the center, rotating at a high speed. The black and white spiritual powers attracted each other and repelled each other, causing Wei Yixin's spiritual power to fall into chaos instantly and completely unable to function normally. He was like being imprisoned by the huge Teikai pattern. Zhang Jingshan and Jepu cooperated very well. At the moment when the black and white Teikai pattern appeared, endless strange black insects emerged from his black robe and surrounded Wei Yixin in an instant at the speed of thunder. Wei Yixin's spiritual thoughts moved, and a dark black jade pendant on his chest shattered with a click, and a light black huge spiritual shield wrapped him tightly. The slender black insects hit the spiritual shield, setting off waves of spiritual power frenzy, and all kinds of sharp and piercing sounds were transmitted to the ears, making people feel a splitting headache. But Wei Yixin's spiritual power was imprisoned, and Zhang Jingshan was prepared for the attack, and his cultivation was far stronger than his. Under the fierce attack of countless black insects, the spiritual shield was shaky, and after a few breaths, it shattered with a bang, and all the black insects drilled into Wei Yixin's body. He felt a series of piercing pains all over his body, and couldn't help but cry out in pain. A trace of fierceness flashed in Wei Yixin's eyes, and he bit the tip of his tongue hard, and a drop of blood emerged. Wow. A shrill baby cry sounded, and a grey-black baby arm drilled out from the middle of his abdomen, and caught the drop of blood. Immediately afterwards, every piece of skin on the surface of his body became extremely dry, as if all the vitality was instantly absorbed and swallowed by an unknown existence. A grey-black baby tore through his abdomen, and crawled out flexibly. With extremely resentful eyes, he looked at Jepu and the other two, as well as Lu Xuan who was on full alert behind him, and fled into the distance without hesitation. Neither Jepu's magical black and white Teikai pattern nor the countless ferocious black insects raised by Zhang Jingshan could have a huge impact on the grey-black baby. Seeing that he was about to break out of the Teikai pattern boundary, Jepu snorted coldly, and a black and white sword light shot out from the Teikai pattern, appeared out of thin air at the waist of the grey-black baby, and directly cut it in two. The grey-black baby was extremely powerful in life. Even if it was divided into two parts, it still had the ability to fly at high speed. During the flight, it even had a tendency to merge together again. At this moment, a loud frog croaking sounded. Two huge golden toads jumped out of the void, and the surface of the toad's body was printed with rune patterns like money. The golden light swept across the two parts of the baby's body, and the extremely holy breath directly purified the strange breath on the baby's body. The two golden toads bit half of the baby's body fiercely, and swallowed it directly. The golden light flashed all over the body, and the abdomen continued to swell and shrink, as if trying to digest the baby's body. Soon, the two golden toads returned to Zhang Jingshan, slipped into his sleeves and disappeared. Junior brother Zhang, this pair of spiritual golden toads is becoming more and more magical. They can even directly purify the strong evil spirit from the baby ghost. Jepu smiled, and said to the silent Zhang Jingshan, "You are almost forming a pill." Zhang Jingshan responded briefly, and his tone seemed to reveal a sense of helplessness. "Thank you, senior brother Jet, senior brother Zhang and senior brother Zhang have helped me a lot. I'm very grateful." Lu Xuan, who had watched a battle up close, came to Jepu and the others, bowed deeply, and said gratefully, "Junior brother Lu, don't thank me so early. This evil cultivator is a bit strange." Jepu waved his hand, and came to the center of the Teikai pattern, in front of the evil cultivator who had become a broken dry corpse. and said solemnly, "Brother, have you found anything?" "Yes." Jepu nodded slightly. "That was just a special clone puppet, but it is different from ordinary puppets. Its mind is connected to the original owner. The death of the puppet will have a huge impact on the original owner, and the distance will not be too far. Junior brother Lu, you follow behind me. Junior brother Zhang, we will each collect in the area near Jianmen Town. The clone puppet is destroyed, and the evil cultivator behind the scenes will show strong spiritual fluctuations. There is a high probability that we can find it." Jepu flicked his hand, and a black and white Teikai appeared behind his head. The Teikai rotated rapidly, and a black and white channel appeared in a blink of an eye, enveloping him and Lu Xuan and disappearing instantly. More than 200 miles away from Jianmen Town, in a hidden stone cave, Wei Yixin spat out a mouthful of black blood, feeling the restless and violent breath coming from his body, took out a black pill shaped like an embryo from the storage bag, and swallowed it. The breath in his body was slightly calmed down. "Jepu, Zhang Jingshan, and the cultivator who led me in." He gritted his teeth and said, with endless anger and resentment in his tone. This time, he came here to collect the holy infant fruit plants, thinking that he could make a big profit, but he didn't expect to suffer such a big loss. Not only did he not get the holy infant fruit plants and the many high-grade rare spiritual plants in the courtyard, but he lost an extremely precious clone puppet. This clone puppet is very different from ordinary puppets. It has a very high intelligence and cultivation level comparable to his, almost the same as ordinary people. It is usually his great support and the key to his breakthrough to the Jiandan realm. But he didn't expect it to be destroyed in such a small courtyard. This made him feel like his heart was bleeding. No, he really vomited blood. Half of it was because of the injury, and the other half was because he was so angry. How did the two true disciples Jepu and Zhang Jingshan know that I would come here? Where exactly is the flaw? Wei Yixin was puzzled. He was always cautious. In order to obtain the holy infant fruit, he possessed the evil fruit several times through the mother plant, carefully observed the situation in the courtyard, and after confirming that there was no danger, he became greedy and wanted to steal the daughter fruit and several other rare spiritual plants. In case of any accidents, he deliberately only let the clone puppet come, and the main body stayed far away. Unexpectedly, he lost a clone puppet instead of the spiritual plant. Fortunately, I saved my life. I will come back to take revenge when I recover my strength. I guess Jepu and the others are searching everywhere. We must leave here as soon as possible. He took out a thin leather bag from the storage bag and put it on his body. Suddenly, his aura was completely hidden. As soon as he left the stone cave, Wei Yixin looked deeply at the direction of Jianmen Town through the thin leather bag and shuffled quickly between the trees. TSK, TSK. At this moment, a clear chirping sound was heard, and the hazy spiritual power rippled and swept across the whole world, and the thin skin was clearly revealed. Roar. A roar that resounded through the sky sounded. Wei Yixin saw from afar a white jade monkey running towards him at high speed, with fierce eyes and unstoppable momentum. During the rush, the monkey's body continued to expand, and in a blink of an eye it grew to a height of 10 feet, with silver white hair flying all over its body. Wherever it passed, the trees and rocks were all turned into dust, like a demon god descending to the world. Monkey God. Start. Chapter 408, Killing. The white jade sky supporting ape turned into a terrifying beast and pounced in front of Wei Yixin in an instant. He stomped hard on the ground, and a pair of white jade fists blasted towards Wei Yixin like meteors, bringing a sharp explosion in the air. Faced with such a powerful attack, Wei Yixin, who was not good at physical training, sacrificed a dark ghost-faced shield in a flash. The ferocious ghost face on the shield let out a shrill howl, carrying a long snake-like thick black yuan key, blocking the pair of giant fists of the white jade sky supporting ape. There was a loud bang. Under the silver white jade giant fist, the ghost-faced shield was like paper, and a big hole was directly smashed out. The ghost face in the center of the shield was smashed to only half of the face. Wei Yixin was horrified. This shield was a 4th grade defensive magic weapon with amazing defensive power, but he didn't expect it to be so vulnerable under the fist of the giant ape in front of him. He immediately thought of retreating, and the thin leather bag on his body surged with a faint yuan-ki, like water ripples, and his figure gradually disappeared. Crack. Another crisp cry sounded, and Xuan, who was hidden under the skin, was exposed again dozens of feet away. Before he could react, the giant ape turned around, like a hungry tiger pouncing on its food, and smashed his head with a white jade fist. Xuan was surrounded by demonic energy, and 4 arms grew out of his ribs. The arms spread and grew rapidly, and in the blink of an eye they grew to several feet long. Together, they blocked the white jade fist. The giant fist slammed into the 4 thick tentacles, and blood and flesh flew everywhere, falling to the ground with a sizzling sound. The white jade sky supporting ape was too brave, and Xuan, who had 6 arms, retreated step by step under its tide-like attack. The giant ape became more and more excited, and the fiery red crystal eyes as big as his head were filled with endless tyranny. If he was not careful, Xuan would be in danger of his life. During this period, he tried every possible way to escape from the giant ape, and used the strange human skin several times to hide his body. But the existence that made the clear cry was hiding somewhere. Once he disappeared, the effect of the skin bag would be directly broken, and he would be greeted by the endless attacks of the giant ape. In this situation, Xuan felt that he was in a disadvantageous situation. He wasted his spiritual power in vain. In the long run, he would be slowly worn down by the 2 high-grade spiritual beasts like a cat playing with a mouse. A trace of cruelty flashed in his eyes, and his spiritual power raged in his meridians. His body continued to expand, squeezing his facial features out of shape, and instantly turned into an inhuman existence. With a bang, the body that had expanded into a spherical shape burst open, and countless black meat with strong yin energy scattered all over the sky, and flew in all directions. This escape method is a sinister secret technique that requires a lot of blood and blood. If you escape and recondense your body, your strength will be greatly reduced. If your elm drops by 1 level, it will take 10 years to replenish the lost blood and blood. But now the situation is urgent and your life may be in danger at any time. Xuan can't care about these things. Saving his life is the most important thing. Although the giant ape intercepted many pieces of black meat, there were too many of them to handle, so he could only try his best to block them. At this moment, a huge red fireball appeared out of thin air, and it differentiated into endless slender fire snakes in the air, dyeing the entire sky red. The red fire snakes danced wildly, chasing the pieces of broken black meat. Once they caught up, they attached themselves directly to the black meat like a thorn in the bone, and burned the black meat into black ash before they stopped. Countless fire snakes spread into a vast sea of fire, and all the yin black meat was nowhere to hide in the sea of fire. The remaining small part of the black meat gathered together and condensed into a black meatball. The flesh and blood on the meatball changed, and Xuan's facial features could be vaguely seen in pain. Then, short limbs differentiated from the meatball, which looked extremely deformed. With a snap, the giant ape waiting for an opportunity to move on the side had already prepared, and a pair of white jade giant palms slapped down like a huge wave, smashing the meatball's head into countless pieces. The white jade light of the giant palm surged, purifying all the broken pieces of meat into nothingness. Seeing that the enemy was completely solved, the giant ape's eyes surged with red light, and his body quickly shrank, turning back into the shy white jade little monkey, no longer fierce and violent as before. Xuan appeared gracefully from a distance, and flew slowly in front of the little monkey. In the air, countless red fire snakes gathered together, and turned into a huge fireball again. Xuan raised his head slightly, with a bit of pride in his expression, and slowly walked out of the fireball. After a few breaths, Jepu brought Lu Xuan, and Zhang Jingshan, who had sensed the movement and circled around, also appeared in this mountain range. Junior brother Lu is really generous. He can actually mobilize such a large force to deal with this evil cultivator who has completed the foundation building. Not only do we have 3 true disciples, but we have also contacted the 2 guardian spirit beasts, Xuan Bailun and Baiyu Qingshan. Jepu said with some surprise when he saw the phoenix and the white ape. As long as these 2 guardian spirit beasts grow normally, they can reach the Giandan realm. If they have good fortune, they have the potential to break through to the 7th grade demon beast, that is, the nascent soul realm. They have a very high status in the sect, and even the true disciples cannot drive them to do things for themselves. Didn't I grow a lot of spiritual fruits? By chance, I fed these two guardian spirit beasts many times, so we have a deep relationship. This time I took the opportunity to invite them to help me. Lu Xuan said half truthfully. Jepu nodded slightly, looking at the evil cultivator with deformed limbs. I didn't expect that there would be an evil cultivator with perfect foundation building sneaking in from the foot of Xianjian sect, wanting to harm our cultivators. I don't know what those inner disciples in Jianmen Town did. They didn't find it. No wonder those brothers and sisters. It's just that this evil cultivator is too cunning, plus his ability to hide is not bad, so he had the idea of sneaking into my yard. Lu Xuan said with a serious expression. Speaking of the purpose of evil cultivation, Junior Brother Lu, there is something I must remind you of. Jepu turned his head and looked at Lu Xuan with a serious expression. Junior Brother Lu has a unique talent in spiritual plant cultivation. It is understandable that he wants to study those evil spiritual plants. But I still hope that Junior Brother can control the degree of it and not indulge in it. After all, those evil spiritual plants are different from normal spiritual plants. It is easy to affect the mind of the planter and even put it at risk of being polluted and alienated. It is not the right way. In addition, there are giant and uncles in the sect who hate evil. If they are discovered, it may cause bad effects. So, you can only try it lightly and don't indulge in it. Thank you for your reminder, Senior Brother Jet. I will pay attention. I can guarantee you, Senior Brother, that the evil spiritual plants grown will not be used to do evil, kill innocent people, and endanger the interests of the sect. Lu Xuan promised hurriedly. Chapter 409 Holy Infant Pill. After Void Nightmare discovered the trace of the evil cultivator, Lu Xuan, who was hiding nearby, took the time to move all the other spiritual plants, except the holy infant fruit plant in the courtyard of the underworld into the gluttonous insect sack. This move was to hide Jepu and others who came to help. After all, a holy infant fruit is fine. If you see several 4th grade and 5th grade evil spirit plants, it is difficult not to guarantee that Jepu, who comes from a well-known family human reverie. However, it can be seen from Jepu's hint just now that he probably discovered something and looked for an opportunity to remind himself. That's good. When Jepu heard this, a gentle smile appeared on his face. 3 true disciples, 2 sect protecting spirit beasts, and Lu Xuan all gathered around the deformed corpse of the evil cultivator who had lost his head. Xuanshan Bailuan chirped crisply, and a dim spiritual light circled the corpse several times. After confirming that there was no evil spirit present, he took a few steps back. Lu Xuan stepped forward and picked up a thin human skin bag on the ground. There was a slight coolness on the skin, and the texture felt the same as skin. He then took off the evil cultivator's storage bag, using his spiritual power to break through the simple restrictions left on it, and took out the items inside one by one. A black banner magic weapon containing many resentful souls, a sharp blade with restrained black light, several bottles of unknown types of elixirs. Judging from their spiritual power, they should be of a high grade, and several spiritual stones. What caught Lu Xuan's attention was an embryo-shaped spiritual fruit that was 70% similar to the spiritual fruit on the holy infant fruit strain. But on the dry grey-black body, the abdomen was bulging high, as if something terrible was quietly gestating in the belly. With his back facing 2 grey-black sarcomas close to the size of his fist, Lu Xuan felt the breath of the holy infant fruit strain from the sarcomas. This time, I would like to thank my 3 senior brothers and my 2 spiritual beast friends for helping me to deal with this powerful evil cultivator. I want this embryo-shaped spiritual fruit among the trophies found on the evil cultivator. The 3 senior brothers will allocate it themselves. I wonder what the senior brothers think. The 3 of them came out, either to repay Lu Xuan for helping them conceive spiritual beasts, or because they saw Lu Xuan's talent for spiritual cultivation, and deliberately made friends with them, without intending to obtain many treasures. In addition, what Lu Xuan took away was the spiritual fruit with unknown function in the hearts of the 3 people. Therefore, there was no opinion on Lu Xuan's distribution form. After the 3 negotiated for a few words, Jepu got the human skin bag and some pills, and Huo Liner got the black flag of resentful souls and the dark sharp blade weapon. As for Zhang Jingshan, because his psychic golden toad swallowed 2 halves of the puppet when he was in the small courtyard of Jianmen Town, he only took some spirit stones. When Luaneo and Baoan took out their things, they didn't see the spiritual fruit they like to eat, so they said goodbye to Luzuan and left first. After all, this mutilated corpse was left by an evil cultivator. If it is left in the wilderness like this, the spreading yin qi will probably contaminate the creatures in this area. It is better to take it back and deal with it. Before leaving, Luzuan said he forgot to put most of the corpse into the storage bag and gave a very reasonable reason. The three of them had no objections. Junior brother Lu, I wonder if the evil cultivator has any accomplices left in Jianmen Town. Do you need to return to the sect with us? Jepu asked. All the evil cultivators who had completed the foundation building were killed on the spot, and with the big commotion in Jianmen Town, the alert level of the fellow disciples who stayed in the town will be increased by several levels. If the evil cultivators still had fellow disciples, they would have fled long ago. I will never wait for the monks of our sect to search in Jianmen Town. I have to go back to deal with some follow-up matters, Luzuan said with determination. Okay, let's go back to the sect first. If anything happens, junior brother, you can contact us at any time using the communication talisman. The three of them said goodbye to Luzuan. Luzuan urged the floating light body technique and the 5-element escape technique, and quickly returned to the small courtyard in Jianmen Town. Near the small courtyard, there were some monks who were attracted by the huge movement and watched the excitement. In addition, there were several inner disciples wearing the standard robes of the Xianjian sect to maintain order. Luzuan waited for half a day, and after the monks dispersed, he sneaked into the small courtyard. In the small courtyard, a holy infant fruit stood alone. The grey-black baby's silhouette flashed past and disappeared into the embryo-shaped spiritual fruit. High in the sky above the courtyard, the nightmare eyes of the void kept wandering between the void and reality, observing the movements around the courtyard. I didn't expect to get rid of an evil cultivator who has perfected the foundation establishment so easily. It seems that the decision to hug the sect protecting spirit beast's thigh and make friends with the true disciple was extremely correct. Luzuan couldn't help but sigh. The evil cultivator has reached the perfect state of foundation building, and there is also the weird clone puppet, which also has extraordinary magic weapons and secret techniques, but it is still easily solved by a few true disciples and spiritual beasts, as if it were a trick. If I face it alone, with the many 4th grade sword talismans in my hand, the 5th grade void nightmare eye, the 5th grade pure yang true fire barrel, and the powerful physical spiritual consciousness, I should be able to defeat it with many talismans and magic weapons. It will be solved, but it will definitely not be so easy. Luzuan thought to himself, after comparing his strength with the cultivator. This small courtyard in the underworld has been exposed. It has been known to the same sect and other forces in Jianmen Town that it is not suitable for planting evil spiritual plants. We have to find a new place to deal with the blood evil flowers, the strange life peach and other spiritual plants. Luzuan muttered in his heart and came to the holy infant fruit plant. My mind was focused on the plant, and the translucent progress bar below was completely full. The 5th grade holy infant fruit plant is finally mature. Luzuan carefully picked off the embryo-shaped spiritual fruit on the plant. The spiritual fruit of the holy infant fruit strain is cultivated from the resentment of the soul of an infant. It can be used alone, or integrated with the mother plant, to enhance the effect of the spiritual fruit. Taking spiritual fruit can be used to enhance spiritual consciousness and improve the bones. It is also the main material for refining the 5th grade holy infant pill. The high quality complete holy infant fruit can even be used to refine the external incarnation. The subplant spiritual fruit is not yet a complete 5th grade spiritual fruit. I don't know what kind of reward it can give. Luzuan looked at the white light group quietly emerging on the plant, expecting in his heart. Stretch out your hand and gently touch the surface of the light group. Suddenly, countless light spots poured into his eyebrows, and thoughts flashed through his mind. Harvest one spiritual fruit from the 5th grade holy infant fruit strain, and obtain the 5th grade elixir holy infant pill. A black and round elixir the size of an egg appeared in Luzuan's hand. The surface of the elixir is covered with grey and black spirit patterns, and the spirit patterns move around like countless deformed faces of infants. The rich and pure yin energy escapes from the inside of the elixir, and smelling it makes people's spiritual energy become vivid instantly. Holy Infant Pill, a 5th grade elixir, is made from the 5th grade holy infant fruit as the main medicine. Taking it can slightly increase the probability of breaking through the elixir formation. Chapter 410, So Plant. So, the 5th grade holy infant pill can actually increase the success rate of breaking through the Giandan realm. I've made a profit. Xuan was delighted. Giandan cultivators are already considered giants in the cultivation world. Even in a large sect like the Xianjian sect, there are only more than 10 Giandan true immortals in the sect. The holy infant pill can increase the probability of breaking through the Giandan realm. Its rarity can be imagined. After all, the holy infant fruit plant is not a complete 5th grade spiritual plant. It is already quite good to be able to produce a 5th grade pill. Xuan put away the holy infant pill in his hand, performed the earth attraction technique, and buried the holy infant fruit mother plant obtained from the evil cultivator into the dark mud meat. His mind was focused on the embryo-shaped spiritual fruit, and suddenly a thought emerged from his mind. The holy infant fruit mother plant, a 5th grade spiritual plant, can devour and fuse the mature fruit of the daughter plant, to promote the maturity of the mother plant. Out of the desire for the daughter plant's spiritual fruit, it will instinctively give birth to the daughter plant's spiritual seeds. Within a certain distance, you can sense the breath of the subplant, and confirm its detailed location. When it is close to maturity, you can attach yourself to the subplant to observe, and sense the surrounding situation. After it is fully mature, it can be used for. The use is similar to the subplant's spirit fruit, but the effect is slightly stronger. Should I integrate the subplant's spirit fruit, that just matured into the mother plant? Xuan fell into deep thought. The light ball reward has been obtained. It stands to reason that integrating the subplant's spirit fruit into the mother plant is an extremely correct choice, which can speed up the maturity of the mother plant. But Xuan noticed a sentence in the information. Out of the desire for the subplant's spirit fruit, it will instinctively give birth to the subplant's spirit seed. In other words, as long as the mother plant does not get the satisfaction of the subplant's spirit fruit for one day, the subplant's spirit seed will continue to be produced. A flash of inspiration flashed in his mind. When I got the mother plant, it was already in the growth stage. Even if I cultivated it to maturity, I would not get the light ball reward. Using the daughter spiritual fruit to merge with it, although I can get a mature mother plant with enhanced efficacy, once it is satisfied, it will not give birth to new daughter spiritual seeds. As long as I don't feed it, it will continue to give birth to 5 grade holy infant fruit spiritual seeds. As long as I cultivate it to maturity, it means that I can continue to get light ball rewards. Xuan looked at the mother plant of the holy infant fruit in the spiritual soil, and immediately felt something wrong. Mother plant? So too. Give birth to it vigorously in the future. Give birth to 10 or 8 of it. If it can provide him with a continuous supply of 5 grade daughter spiritual seeds, it is not just a mother plant. Xuan dug the mother plant of the holy infant fruit out of the spiritual soil, and put it into the gluttonous insect sac. Next, it's time to consider moving to another place. Due to this incident, the underworld courtyard has been exposed to the monks of Jianmen Town and fellow disciples of Xianjian sect. Xuan, out of a low-key idea, plans to find a new courtyard to house these evil spiritual plants. He put the spiritual plants such as the peach of longevity and the bloodflower into the gluttonous insect capsule. The gluttonous insect capsule is a 5th grade treasure that can maintain the vitality of the spiritual plants very well, and has almost no effect on the spiritual plants in a short period of time. He also scraped off all the dark mud meat in the yard. After thinking about it, he did not let go of even the ordinary spiritual soil that was contaminated with Yin-Ki, so as not to have to breed such an ethereal courtyard again after moving to a new place. The familiar ethereal growth environment is also more conducive to the growth of many evil spiritual plants. Finally, he took away the array plate of the 4th grade 1000 illusion cloud smoke array. Regarding the new courtyard, he decided to settle in Jianmen Town. First, it is close to the Xianjian sect. Under the reputation of the Xianjian sect, many evil cultivators with ill intentions and robbery cultivators will take the initiative to avoid this place, which is quite convenient for Xuan to come here. Second, if the distance is too far, it is beyond the range of Xuan's ability to control the void nightmare. The spiritual plants in the yard are getting higher and higher. It can no longer be as casual as before. It must be monitored and checked frequently. If an accident happens, it will be too late to cry. For these two reasons, Xuan finally decided to choose Town. Fortunately, Town is vast. Xuan put on the 1000 demon mask, changed his face, and soon found a larger courtyard. There are 2 spiritual fields in the yard, which are suitable for cultivating spiritual plants. He took out the 1000 illusion clouds and smoke array disc, and the clouds and smoke flowed on the array disc, and illusions were everywhere. Xuan came to the center of the courtyard, and his spiritual power penetrated into the array disc, activating the runes on the array disc, and the array disc merged into the ground silently. Soon, milky white clouds and smoke slowly rose from all over the yard, and there were many illusions inside, which quickly disappeared and returned to normal. Fortunately, this 1000 illusion clouds and smoke array itself is an illusion array, with many changes, so I'm not afraid of being recognized. Xuan sighed, took out the yin-filled spiritual soil from the gluttonous insect sack, evenly spread it on the surface of the spiritual field in the yard, and took out the ghost mud meat, and gathered them together. Before long, he could clearly sense that the temperature in the yard had dropped sharply. Wisps of yin qi were spreading from the spiritual soil and the dark mud meat, making the spiritual energy in the whole yard even colder. High-end underworld courtyards often only need simple decoration. Xuan sighed, and took out many evil spiritual plants from the gluttonous insect sack. The 5th grade blood evil flower with hollow blood balls, the 5th grade strange longevity peach with a fresh milky fragrance, the 4th grade blood spirit palm ginseng, that was shaped like a palm, and crawled around in the yard, the dirty insect grass hiding in the corner and secretly collecting foul air and filth, the 3rd grade cayenne kiu hand with small finger-like buds, and the 5th grade holy infant fruit mother plant that had just been obtained. We are moving today, let me celebrate for you. After planting many evil things, Xuan smiled, and immediately took out more than 20 bottles of dragon blood from the storage bag, and poured them on the blood flower and the blood spirit palm ginseng that had been circling around it. A large amount of fresh monster blood and flesh was buried under the longevity peach. There were also many monster corpses, limbs, and joints, so that the cayenne kiu hand that had just sprouted could also have a good meal. He took out the wooden infant that had not been used for a long time, and the power of thunder and lightning forced it to spit out a stream of infant souls, so that the mother plant of the holy infant fruit that had just joined the family of underworld spiritual plants could have a good meal. Many spiritual plants were frantically absorbing and devouring their favorite food. For a while, the yard was filled with souls flying, beast meat like mountains, and blood like rivers, looking like a purgatory on earth. It's been a good little courtyard, but it's already become like the underworld courtyard before. Xuan couldn't help but sigh, secretly marveling at the pollution and assimilation ability of these evil spirits. He was even more grateful that he didn't move these evil spirits into the incomplete secret realm under his control. Unless the possibility of pollution and alienation can be effectively avoided, otherwise, it's better to plant them in this kind of courtyard. He muttered softly, scanning the entire courtyard filled with yin and resentment, and decided to return to the Xianjian sect. He opened the 1000 illusion clouds and smoke array, and came to an unmanned corner. After confirming that there was no abnormality, he restored his original appearance, and flew quickly towards the Xianjian sect. Chapter 411, Wind and Thunder Sword Grass Seed. It's better to stay in the sect and feel safer. Xuan returned to the sect smoothly all the way, feeling the pure and rich spiritual energy in the sect, and greeted the elegant spiritual cranes flying around him intimately, and couldn't help but sigh. It was with the protection of such a huge monster as the Xianjian sect that he could cultivate spiritual plants with peace of mind, without going out to explore secret places, seeking opportunities, and worrying about intrigues and life and death struggles. With his special ability in spiritual plants and the magical light ball reward, he opened up a new path in the sect, gained powerful strength, and also had a good status. He met many true disciples, guardian spirit beasts, and even Giant and Zenran. This time, if it weren't for the 3 true disciples of Jepu and the 2 spirit beasts of the white ape and the phoenix, it would not be easy to solve the evil cultivator who had perfected the foundation. With my current strength, I should have a great chance of winning him, but I'm not absolutely sure that I can completely solve him. If I leave troubles behind, it may cause endless harm. Lu Xuan couldn't help but sigh in his heart. It is with such a strong backer that an ordinary spiritual plant master like me can farm and cultivate spiritual plants and spiritual beasts in peace. After returning to the cave, Lu Xuan went straight to the spiritual field before he could enter the house. After not seeing it for a while, many spiritual plants in the spiritual field were growing well, and each one was full of vitality and vigorous. Oh, many more water fireflies have matured. Lu Xuan came to the blue and slender water firefly spiritual plants, and his spiritual sense swept through them, and found that the translucent progress bars under many water fireflies were completely full. It's time to quickly improve my cultivation. Lu Xuan smiled and picked the water fireflies one by one. There were a total of 41 new batches of fully mature water fireflies, many of which were of good quality, and some were of top quality. After picking, 41 white light balls quietly appeared on the surface of the spiritual soil, flickering slightly, attracting Lu Xuan to pick them up. Lu Xuan smiled and passed by, and many light balls poured into his body almost at the same time. I, Lu Xuan, can reach my current state by practicing diligently every day. Light ball, increase my cultivation. One thought after another flashed through his mind. Harvest a second grade water firefly grass and gain 1 year of cultivation. Harvest a second grade water firefly grass and gain a third grade magic weapon water moving bead. Harvest a second grade water firefly grass and gain a second grade soul enriching pill recipe. Among the 41 light balls, the number of cultivation rewards was slightly less than last time, with a total of 10, bringing Lu Xuan 14 years of cultivation rewards. The rich spiritual power in the meridians appeared like a rising tide, one after another, and rushed wildly in his limbs and bones. Lu Xuan practiced the great 5-element gong and quickly transformed the surging spiritual power into pure spiritual liquid, and merged it into the danshan. The remaining 20 or so light balls brought various rewards: the 3rd grade magic weapon water moving bead, the 3rd grade talisman water dragon talisman, the 2nd grade soul enriching pill and the soul enriching pill recipe. All in all, they could be exchanged for a lot of spiritual stones. After receiving a large number of light balls as rewards, Lu Xuan began to carefully cultivate the remaining spiritual plants in the spiritual field. 5-element fruit, jade dew fruit, Tibetan yuan grass, fairy peach, magic sound bamboo. Different spiritual plants have different needs. Fortunately, Lu Xuan is already familiar with them, and it doesn't take much effort to satisfy them. Only the 4 arrow vines consumed more spiritual power. After all, the instant archery technique is just getting started, and the proficiency is not high. It takes a long time to condense a crooked invisible air arrow and penetrate into the small arrow vine. The short arrowhead on the arrow vine was stimulated by the arrow's spiritual power, and then it instantly stopped and hung on the vine powerlessly. The stimulation is not enough. Lu Xuan sighed helplessly. There was no way, so he could only practice the instant arrow technique slowly. After returning from that blessed land, the other 3 arrow vine spirit seeds slowly grew tender vines after Lu Xuan nourished and stimulated them with spiritual arrows every day. The vines were hung with arrows of various shapes the size of rice grains, small and very cute. In addition to the mutated arrow vine, cultivating many sword grasses also requires Lu Xuan to spend a lot of energy. Lu Xuan uses the most proficient 4-seasoned sword art to cultivate the 2nd grade ordinary sword grass. This kind of sword grass has only 2 uses for him at present. One is to obtain a large number of sword grass spirit seeds according to the spirit seed condensation method obtained from the sword hall, and then put these ordinary sword grass spirit seeds into the scabbard, stimulate them with wind and thunder sword energy, and obtain the mutated 3rd grade wind and thunder sword grass spirit seeds. The second is to complete the tasks assigned by the sword hall, perform the duties of the sword hall disciples, and regularly hand in mature ordinary 2nd grade sword grass. As for the 3rd grade wind and thunder sword grass obtained, Lu Xuan is already trying to condense the spirit seed. After all, although a 3rd grade wind and thunder sword grass is precious, it is completely inadequate in front of the method of condensing seeds. The sword hall of the Xianjian sect has been passed down for so many years, and there are only more than 20 complete methods for condensing the seeds of 3rd grade sword grass. If he can figure out the method of condensing the seeds of wind and thunder sword grass, Lu Xuan estimates that he can almost walk sideways in the sword hall. He referred to the method of condensing the seeds of ordinary 2nd grade sword grass, and his spiritual consciousness carefully guided the dark sword light on the wind and thunder sword grass that was about to mature. He slowly gathered together many active sword lights as thin as hair, and continuously compressed and combined them into the plant. The sword light was sharp and difficult to control. The compression and combination process often ended in failure. In serious cases, it even caused slight damage to the plant itself. Lu Xuan was not discouraged. He learned from experience and repeated the above process very patiently. Fortunately, he could sense the detailed state of the plant and avoid many failure factors according to the state of the spiritual plant. Slowly, many dark sword lights were like domesticated horses. Under the subtle manipulation of Lu Xuan's keen spiritual consciousness, they slowly merged into the sword grass. Lu Xuan continued to guide the vitality of the sword grass, condensing on the countless fine sword lights that were compressed to the extreme, and slowly nurturing it. After repeated attempts, Lu Xuan finally saw a glimmer of hope for success. Inside a wind and thunder sword grass that was about to mature, there were 3 barely perceptible subtle auras, which were sharp and restrained, with a strange sense of coordination. At the same time, it exuded an extremely pure vitality, as if something was slowly being nurtured. Finally, I have successfully taken the first step. Lu Xuan felt the changes inside the sword grass and was happy. Next, we will cultivate these 3 insignificant auras into spiritual seeds. If successful, we will continue to experiment on the wind and thunder sword grass in other growth stages and find out a set of effective methods for condensing seeds. It doesn't seem to be worthwhile to exchange a mature sword grass for 3 spiritual seeds. However, after gaining experience in condensing seeds, there is still room for substantial improvement by adjusting and changing some subtle details. At this moment, Lu Xuan didn't care about the lost white light balls. As long as he successfully summarized the method of condensing seeds, the reward from the sword hall would be more than an unknown number of light ball rewards. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 412. I want to learn farming. While trying to condense the spirit seeds of the wind and thunder sword grass, Lu Xuan was also carefully cultivating 2 4th grade sword grasses. On the side of the sword peacock, Lu Xuan's spiritual power surged, and a deep black wind and thunder sword energy appeared, with black wind lingering, thunder roaring, and arcs jumping. Under his control, the sword energy was divided into dozens of sword beams, faintly forming a sword formation, whistling and infiltrating into the sword peacock. Nourished by the many sword beams, with a swish, the sword peacock was like a peacock spreading its tail, overlapping, and the sword energy was unrestrained and wanton. The beauty and splendor contained sharp murderous intent. After cultivating the sword peacock for such a long time, Lu Xuan has reached a relatively proficient level in the peacock sword formation. It only takes a few moments to divide the sword beams and form a sword formation. Because the sword Qiangxiao has been cultivated for a long time, it has entered the mature stage. Dozens of sword energy phantoms are flying around the sword grass. 2 sword beams are folded up, like thin wings, with a dignified sword intent and extremely fast speed, leaving a trail of after images in the air. The sword energy in the shape of an owl fell on Giant Qiangxiao's spiritual plant, merging with the long sword-like branches. The wings spread out, and the wings were like thin and sharp swords, with an imposing aura. I don't know what kind of light ball reward the 4th grade sword grass can produce. Lu Xuan looked at Giant Qiangxiao beside him, with a hint of expectation in his eyes. For the next period of time, he stayed in the cave, like an old farmer, diligently taking care of the many spiritual plants in the spiritual field. On this day, an uninvited guest came to the door. "Bailey, I haven't seen you for a while. How come you have time to come and see me?" Lu Xuan said gently to a handsome young man. The young man squinted his long and narrow eyes. It was Bailey Giant King who joined the sect together. Brother Lou, can you sense me with your spiritual sense? Bailey Giant King had a proud smile on his face. Have you broken through to the foundation building realm? Lu Xuan scanned his spiritual sense and asked in surprise. That's right, I will also be a disciple of the inner sect of Xianjian sect in the future. Hahaha, congratulations. Lu Xuan was happy for him and patted his shoulder excitedly. Maybe I can surpass you in cultivation in the future and let you call me senior brother. Bailey Giant King imagined. Then you have to work hard. Lu Xuan showed a mysterious smile. Hey, brother Lu, you are already in the middle stage of foundation building? Aren't you cultivating spiritual plants every day? How come your cultivation is improving so fast? Brother Lu, I want to learn farming. Bailey Giant King wailed. He still remembered that when he and Lu Xuan joined the sect together, his cultivation was slightly better than his. Unexpectedly, Lu Xuan, who was known as a spiritual plant master, made rapid progress in cultivation after joining the sect. First, he quickly broke through to the foundation building realm and was promoted to an inner disciple. After he broke through, he thought he could catch up with Lu Xuan a little, but he didn't expect that Lu Xuan quietly reached the middle stage of foundation building. Dao Bailey, farming is not something you can learn just because you want to. This is called talent. Lu Xuan teased. Although the two had not seen each other for a long time, they were still very natural and comfortable when they were together, and it did not change because of the changes in their cultivation and status. By the way, brother Lu, I came here this time to invite you to attend my celebration banquet in a few days and let you, a master in the middle stage of foundation building, come to support me. After chatting for a while, Bailey Giant King handed Lu Xuan an invitation. Okay, I will definitely attend the appointment on time. Lu Xuan took the invitation and said affirmatively. In a blink of an eye, it was Bailey Giant King's celebration day. On a majestic mountain with rugged rocks, Bailey Giant King was greeting 7 or 8 friends. This mountain was chosen by him after he was promoted to an inner sect disciple. After some decoration, it has become a cave residence with good features in all aspects. Among the 7 or 8 fellow disciples, most of them were acquainted by him in the outer sect. 2 of them were in the early stage of foundation building, and the others were in the late stage of key training, or the perfect state. It seems that there is only a thin line between foundation building and cultivation, but it is a natural barrier that many cultivators find difficult to cross. Dear Taoist friends, please enjoy the spiritual fruit and tea first. I have an elder coming. During the chat, Bailey Giant King's expression suddenly changed slightly. He said something to a few people and stood outside the cave, waiting quietly with a respectful demeanor. In less than half a minute, a middle-aged cultivator with a deep aura came to him with a sword light. Senior Yu, welcome. Bailey Giant King bowed respectfully to the middle-aged cultivator and greeted him. The cultivator's name was Yu Hong, and he was a good friend of his grandfather when he was in the Xianjian sect. However, the two had very different circumstances. One of them had no hope of breaking through the foundation building stage, and his cultivation had come to an end. He drifted to a remote and cold place. With a lifespan of more than 100 years, he was determined to have many children and only wanted to have outstanding descendants with outstanding talents to fulfill his unfulfilled wishes. The other person successfully broke through to the foundation building stage and was promoted to an inner disciple. His lifespan reached 300 to 500 years, and he even reached the middle stage of the foundation building stage. There was also a possibility of glimpsing the giant stage. After Bailey Giant King joined the Xianjian sect, he visited Yu Hong several times, and Yu Hong also took good care of the descendants of this good friend. Giant King, you are already an inner disciple, so you don't need to call me senior anymore. You and I will call each other brothers in the future. The middle-aged cultivator said gently. How can that be? Even if I become an inner disciple, you are still my elder. Bailey Giant King's expression was firm. Seeing that he kept insisting, the middle-aged cultivator showed a trace of helplessness. This is not in line with the rules of the sect. How about this? You call me senior brother in public, and call me senior in private. The two of them entered Bailey Giant King's cave one after another. The friends in the cave came out to greet him, and sensing the fluctuations of Yu Hong's spiritual power in the middle stage of foundation building, they all bowed and greeted him. Yu Qian. Senior brother Yu, this is Shen Xiangwen, and this is Bailey Jianqing introduced everyone present to Yu Hong. This is Master Yu Hong. He has a high level of cultivation, and has entered the middle stage of foundation building for decades. He has extremely terrifying strength in swordsmanship. Master Yu. Hearing Bailey Jianqing's words, everyone looked more respectful. Yes. Yu Hong glanced at everyone and nodded gently. He glanced at the too early stage of foundation building cultivators twice more, with a somewhat proud expression. Bailey Jianqing hurriedly served the spiritual fruit and tea. Everyone was centered around Yu Hong. Every time he said a word, someone would echo and laugh, making Yu Hong feel like he was bathed in spring breeze. Yu Hong also enjoyed this environment very much. From time to time, he talked about a few of his adventures and dangerous encounters when exploring secret realms, which attracted everyone's amazement. Senior brother Yu, I'm going out for a while. A good friend is coming over. I'll go to greet him. Bailey Jianqing said softly. Yu Hong nodded without comment, holding the spiritual tea in his hand, slowly took a sip, and was at ease. Soon, Bailey Jianqing led a handsome young man to the cave. Yu Hong glanced at them casually, and the teacup in his hand shook violently, almost spilling the spiritual tea. Brother Lu. Chapter 413 King Fu Lu. Brother Lu. Lu Xuan saw from afar a middle-aged cultivator with a deep aura coming towards him, with an extremely enthusiastic smile on his face. Friend Yu Daoyao, he greeted the middle-aged cultivator with a hint of doubt in his eyes. He had some impression of this middle-aged cultivator. His surname was Yu, and he was in the middle stage of foundation building. He had met him several times in the blessed land jointly developed by the three sects. They were nodding acquaintances, but they had no contact. After returning to the sect, I didn't expect Brother Lu to remember me. The smile on Yu Hong's face was even more sincere and enthusiastic. He had a very deep impression of Lu Xuan. Back then in the blessed land, Lu Xuan relied on his profound attainments in spiritual plants to help a group of fellow disciples solve major problem of the Arm Jungle Strange Formation. He also noticed that Huo Liner and Jian Wuxia, the two true disciples, usually had a high vision, but treated Lu Xuan very intimately. They even accidentally learned that the Jinden Zenran specially left a special talisman for Lu Xuan as a life-saving item. Due to various factors, his attitude towards Lu Xuan, a spiritual plant master, has also changed greatly. He wanted to make friends with him, but he couldn't find any opportunities. Jianqing, do you know Senior Brother Lu? Yes, I joined the sect with Senior Brother Lu. Bailey Jianqing was still immersed in Yu Hong's overly enthusiastic attitude towards Lu Xuan, and answered subconsciously. Hiss. Yu Hong couldn't help but take a deep breath. He didn't expect that the two of them would have such an experience. He was very familiar with the time when Bailey Jianqing entered the sect. In other words, Lu Xuan was promoted from an outer disciple to the middle stage of foundation building in less than 20 years. He is so young, and is valued by the sect's true disciples and even the Jinden. His future is limitless. Senior Brother Lu, Grandpa Jianqing and I were once from the same sect, and have a deep friendship. He took the initiative to introduce to Lu Xuan the relationship between him and Bailey Jianqing. I see. Lu Xuan nodded. You. For a moment, he was in a dilemma of not knowing how to address Yu Hong. It's okay, let's talk about our own things. You can just call me Junior Brother Yu. Yu Hong's face was wrinkled with laughter. After Lu Xuan sat down, the focus of everyone's topic unconsciously shifted to him. After learning about his identity as a spiritual plant master, they all sighed. After the banquet was over, Lu Xuan found Bailey Jianqing and threw a green mottled gourd up and down with one hand. When the gourd rose and fell, there was a faint sound of sword ringing from it. I know you like things related to swords, so this sword raising gourd will be a gift for you to break through the foundation building stage. Under Bailey Jianqing's constantly burning eyes, Lu Xuan gently threw the gourd to him. He has more than 10 sword raising gourds in his hand. This time, he came here to specially select the best quality one from them and give it to Bailey Jianqing. Thank you, Brother Lu. Bailey Giant King caught the sword raising gourd, and his spiritual consciousness felt the sharp and invisible sword energy in the gourd, and he couldn't let it go. The sword raising gourd can release the invisible sword energy that is nurtured in it. It is extremely powerful in killing. Although it is formed by spiritual plants, it is better than most third grade magic tools. It is the most suitable for Bailey Giant King, who has just been promoted to an inner disciple. Lu Xuan did not stay in his cave for long. After reminiscing about the past and recalling the past, he returned to his own cave. As soon as he entered the streamer array, the cloud-stepping lynx came out from nowhere, stood in the dense woods, and looked at Lu Xuan from afar, and then pretended to pass by him casually. After Lu Xuan pulled the 2 tufts of hair on the tip of its ears, it let out a low roar, and walked away silently without any change in its green eyes. Then, a grapevine crawled to Lu Xuan's feet like a great snake, trying to get into his sleeves. No, no, no. You've grown so big, and you're still digging holes everywhere. Lu Xuan hurriedly stopped the demon ghost vine, took out a flame fruit from the storage bag, and stuffed it into the top of the vine. After returning from the blessed land, he regularly fed the demon ghost vine some spiritual fruits every day as a reward for it to find spiritual species such as the flesh spirit god and arrow vine in the blessed land. After the demon ghost vine's appetite was greatly satisfied, it wandered leisurely in the spiritual field every day, marking the parts of the spiritual plants it liked. It has a special liking for spiritual plants. When it is bored, it stays under the fairy peach, enjoying the intoxication brought by the pink miasma and the strange feeling of the vines constantly differentiating like tentacles. If the magic bamboo next to it is noisy, it will use the tentacle branches to stuff them into the many cracks of the bamboo, filling them up so that they have no chance to call out. Lu Xuan came to the edge of the small lake and saw the rock turtle covered with thick mud armor jumping happily in the small lake, looking dirty and naughty. The green-horned dragon carp stayed quietly in the corner, enjoying the pale white spiritual energy rising from the small lake. The Liho Jiao stayed quietly at the bottom of the small lake, guarding the 5th grade dragon skeleton grass, to see if it could absorb a trace of subtle dragon energy. Huh? Where is the fat bird? Lu Xuan was surprised. The Fengshen, who was the most enthusiastic in the past, did not see its round belly today. His spiritual sense swept across the entire mountain, and in the depths of the forest, he found a pale blue fat bird with a rising aura. Huh? Is the rank going to break through? Lu Xuan was delighted, and came to the side of the Fengshen in an instant. When the Fengshen saw Lu Xuan, a trace of joy flashed across its round eyes. Lu Xuan's arrival made it more confident of success in its promotion. It stretched out a pair of broad pale blue wings, and the pale blue spiritual light on the wings surged, forming a series of whistling winds and airflows. Soon, the energy in the wind falcon reached a limit, and its wings flapped gently, causing a strong wind to sweep, blowing the trees within a range of more than 10 feet around it to the ground. TSK, TSK. It chirped crisply, and the sound was resolute, and all the spiritual power in its body entered its body at the same time. Lu Xuan's spiritual consciousness was nervously paying attention to the status of the wind falcon, ready to support at any time. TSK. The crisp chirping sound resounded through the sky, and the wind falcon turned into a green light and swept across the mountain peak. The speed was so fast that it was difficult to capture with the naked eye. Lu Xuan felt the joy in its heart, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. The 2nd grade wind falcon was raised in the rich and pure spiritual environment of the inner sect. It was fed with 2nd grade or even 3rd grade spiritual fruits and treasures like spiritual stones. After years of accumulation, it was finally promoted to a 3rd grade spiritual beast. He came to the place where the wind falcon had stopped before, and gently touched the slightly flickering white light ball that appeared out of thin air. Countless tiny light points instantly poured into Lu Xuan's body, and a thought flashed through his mind. The 2nd grade wind falcon was promoted to a 3rd grade spirit beast, and obtained the 4th grade magic weapon King Fu shoes. A pair of light blue shoes appeared in Lu Xuan's hands. There were many dense light blue spirit patterns on the shoes. They were as light as nothing, as if they would be blown away by the breeze at any time. Lu Xuan's mind was focused on the light blue shoes. King Fu shoes, a 4th grade magic weapon, are made from the leather of the 4th grade King Fu demon bird. There are many runes for lightening, accelerating, and breaking through the air. They are as light as a feather, can reduce the weight of the cultivator, and greatly increase the cultivator's speed. Chapter 414, both naive and playful. 4th grade speed type magic weapon. Not bad. The 2nd grade spirit beast Feng Falcon broke through to the 3rd grade, and a 4th grade speed type magic weapon appeared in the light ball, which made Lu Xuan very satisfied. His former shortcoming, spiritual consciousness, increased rapidly after 3 spirit pines matured, and he obtained the 5th grade treasure Yunshan Tai from the light ball, as well as 2 5th grade practice Shenyanjing experience packs. As for speed, Lu Xuan currently only mastered the floating light body method and the 5-element escape method in the great 5-element gong. Although the level is acceptable, it is nothing compared to his treasures. This 4th grade King Fielu magic weapon made up for his shortcoming very well. He stretched out his feet and put them into the King Fielu. There was a soft touch on his feet, and a light and spiritual breath flowed into his soles. Lu Xuan's mind moved, and the whole person soared up, shooting into the sky like a sharp arrow. In an instant, he rose to a height of dozens of feet. He was in high spirits, controlling the King Fu shoes to move quickly in the cave, leaving a trail of blurred after images. After experimenting for a while, he had a certain understanding of the 4th grade King Fu shoes. This pair of precious boots could greatly increase his movement speed, and at the same time, it could instantly change his movement direction, allowing him to perform all kinds of incredible movements. The main point is light, fast, and agile. Lu Xuan concluded. He called the Feng Falcon, who had just broken through. Feng Falcon leaned against Lu Xuan's side intimately, and its round belly kept rubbing against Lu Xuan's body. How come my belly didn't get smaller? After breaking through to the 3rd grade, Lu Xuan was puzzled and muttered to himself. Feng Falcon chirped crisply, and in an instant it turned into a green light and appeared in the distance. Before Lu Xuan could react, it moved back to its original position in an instant. Crack. It flapped its wider wings covered with light green spiritual patterns, conveying a thought to Lu Xuan. Although my stomach hasn't changed, my speed has increased by who knows how much. Okay, our fat bird is the fastest. Lu Xuan rubbed Feng Falcon's soft belly and said with a chuckle. Feng Falcon hummed a few times before leaving with satisfaction. In front of Lu Xuan, it wanted to show him its progress and prove that Lu Xuan's efforts were not in vain. It was only a 2nd grade monster beast that excelled in speed. According to the normal growth trajectory, it would be difficult to break through the grade even if it died. It was Lu Xuan who raised different 2nd grade and even 3rd grade spiritual fruits, various fancy cooking of high grade monster meat, rare fruit spirit juice, etc. since it was a child, which gave it such an opportunity to break through the limit. You can move around the mountain if you have nothing to do in the future. Feng Falcon is already a 3rd grade monster beast, and its speed is among the top among monster beasts of the same grade, so Lu Xuan is relieved that it can move freely around the cave. After all, the area of the cave is limited. If it is always locked in the cave, it is a kind of confinement in a certain sense. Moreover, the cave is located in the inner sect of the Xianjian sect, so it is safe. Letting it release its nature from time to time and fly among the mountains and rivers can also promote its physical and mental growth. Crack. Hearing Lu Xuan's instructions, the wind falcon chirped happily, turned into a green light, and disappeared in Lu Xuan's eyes. Lu Xuan simply kept wearing the 4th grade green shoes, and his spiritual energy was restrained. He also turned into a stream of light and appeared in the yard. He came to a small elegant room. A faint medicinal fragrance came from the elegant room, as if he had realized something. Lu Xuan's sight shifted to a round pill the size of a pigeon egg, which was white and floating in the middle. The spiritual light on the surface of the pill changed and dimmed a little. Lu Xuan felt a very slight touch on his hand. It seemed that a trickle of water was flowing gently on the back of his hand. The presence of this medicine beast is too weak. Lu Xuan sighed secretly, and he sent a thought to the almost invisible and colorless medicine beast in his hand. On the back of his hand, a legless soft-bodied insect appeared, flowing around his hand like liquid. After obtaining this strange insect Yaozi from the secret realm of the boundless sea, Lu Xuan had kept it in the house, giving it a pill from time to time, allowing it to absorb the remaining poison in it and improve the quality of the pill. The dark white round pill in the house was a Xuan iron pill he left behind a while ago. I'm here to give you something good today, and I guarantee you'll be able to eat it for a long time. Lu Xuan said with a smile, taking out a black pill filled with dark yun energy from the storage bag. 5th grade holy infant pill, strong enough. The Yao's figure became ethereal, and Lu Xuan's spiritual consciousness sensed that he tightly wrapped the egg-sized holy infant pill and tried to absorb the possible poison in the pill. It's possible to improve the quality of the pill and also to raise this 4th grade strange insect Yao's well, which can be said to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Lu Xuan felt the joy coming from the Yao's low intelligence and sighed secretly. As soon as he came out of the elegant room, he rushed to the place where the wisps of poisonous smoke were rising from his feet. He looked down and saw that it was the larva of the 100 poisonous heart-devouring worm that was following him closely. A slight poisonous gas was spreading on its bumpy body. Do you want to eat too? Lu Xuan took out a 2nd grade corpse flame pill obtained from the evil cultivator from his storage bag and threw it into the larva's mouth. The larva chewed the pill slowly, lying quietly on the ground, carefully experiencing the corpse poison in the corpse flame pill. After waiting for a long time, a trace of paleness appeared on the larva's lower jaw. The pale area was only a small area, and there was no trend of further spread. Facts have proved that no matter how sensitive you are, as long as you take the medicine more often, you will have tolerance. Lu Xuan recalled the reaction of the 100 poisonous heart-devouring worm when it took the corpse flame pill for the first time and couldn't help but sigh. Back then, a 2nd grade corpse flame pill could make it half dead. If Lu Xuan hadn't rescued it immediately, it would probably have died on the spot. Unexpectedly, after taking it many times, the larva, which was extremely sensitive to various toxins, had become immune to the corpse flame pill. The larva chewed for a while, but it was getting more and more boring. It opened its mouth and spit out all the corpse flame pill residue in its mouth. Hey, you little poisonous insect, still despise my poison pill? The poisonous heartworm raised its little head, and there was great expectation in its little eyes. Its desire for various poisons and toxins was fully revealed in front of Lu Xuan. Are you sure you want to try new poisons? Lu Xuan asked the larva with a serious expression. This larva has a special physique. It is a difficult poison body. It is extremely sensitive to various toxins and poisons. The degree of love is to the extreme, but it will have a violent reaction after swallowing poisons. In severe cases, it may even be in danger of life. When the larva heard Lu Xuan's question, it nodded hurriedly. Either refine the toxin, or be poisoned to death. I can't live without it. Okay. Lu Xuan felt the firm thought conveyed by the larva in his mind and said helplessly, you are really a novice, and love to play. Fortunately, I have me to protect you. Chapter 415, Sword Searching in the Sword Pond. Although Lu Xuan's words were full of disdain, his spiritual consciousness probed into the storage bag, searching for poisons and toxins that could satisfy the larvae. He boasted that he could grasp the detailed physical condition of the larvae at any time, so he was confident that, even if it was poisoned to the point of near death, he could pull it back from the brink of death. Soon, he turned out a piece of monster meat from inside. The monster meat was placed in an exquisite jade box with runes on all sides to ensure the freshness of the meat and prevent the loss of spiritual power. Lu Xuan remembered that this piece of monster meat came from the 3rd grade monster ice toad. The ice toad lives in an extremely cold place and can absorb the extremely cold breath of the extreme cold, accumulating a strong virus in its body. Try this. He threw a fist-sized piece of ice toad meat to the larva of the 100 poisonous heart-eating worm. The larva felt the cold poison breath coming from it, and its mung bean-sized eyes lit up instantly, and it swallowed the ice toad meat into its stomach in 3 or 5 bites. The moment it swallowed, a thin layer of frost quickly appeared on the surface of the larva's body. The frost accumulated more and more. After a few breaths, the larvae were frozen all over. If you didn't pay attention, you would think it was an ice cube. There was a faint black gas flowing in the ice cube, which made the larvae feel an extremely cold breath. Seeing this, Lu Xuan's mind quickly focused on the larvae. Or thought flashed through his mind. The 100 poison heart-eating bug, a 4th grade poisonous bug, has a special physique and a difficult poisonous body. After swallowing the 3rd grade ice toad meat, the body is exposed to extremely strong cold poison. If it cannot be resolved in time, the spiritual power, body, and even the soul will soon be frozen and gradually die. It is necessary to use the extremely yang and extremely strong strange fire, as well as the perfect fire control method, to slowly bake all parts of the 100 poison heart-eating bug's body, to dispel the cold poison in its body. Fortunately, I can easily solve it myself. Otherwise, I have to ask senior brother Jet and others for help. Lu Xuan learned about the detailed state of the larvae at this time and sighed secretly. He had been contemplating the 5th grade Pure Yang True Fire scroll for several years. Although he had not been able to control the Pure Yang True Fire divine power, he had no problem in casting a ray of the Pure Yang flame of the most yang and most strongest. As for controlling fire, he had opened a lot of flame skill experience packs from the Flame Fruit Light group and was able to achieve fine control. He would definitely not roast this little poisonous insect. Lu Xuan circulated his spiritual power, and the majestic image of the barefoot golden crow emerged in his mind. A ray of the light white and golden flame of the most yang and most strongest gushed out from his fingertips. Under the control of Lu Xuan's spiritual consciousness, the flame shape kept changing, and soon formed a thin fire net, gently wrapping the larvae that had become ice. The extremely cold ice was like snow encountering the scorching sun, melting rapidly, and soon the larva's body appeared, but it did not look very good. Every part of its body was frozen into a blue-black color, and there was a fine black gas flowing on the surface of its body, and the cold breath was strong and strong. Lu Xuan was calm, and continued to roast the larvae without panic. After a dozen breaths, a wisp of black gas seeped out of the larvae and was compressed into a drop of black cold liquid by the light platinum fire net controlled by Lu Xuan. The larvae opened its eyes and couldn't help but shudder. It quickly regained its vitality, circling around Lu Xuan, conveying a feeling of gratitude to him. "Is it delicious?" Lu Xuan asked with a chuckle. The larvae nodded quickly. "Do you regret it?" He shook his head again without hesitation. "I'll spoil you." Lu Xuan waved his hand, and the satisfied larvae left quickly, hiding in some corner, to digest the cold poison in the ice-toad meat. After trying a new poison for the 100 poison heartworm larvae, Lu Xuan's next days were as plain as water, quietly waiting for the last soul-enriching pine to fully mature. Unexpectedly, he waited for an acquaintance he hadn't seen for a long time. On the mountainside, the two-headed armadillo, that was stealthily carrying the wuling soil to its cave, seemed to sense some terrifying aura, and disappeared from Lu Xuan's sight in the blink of an eye, hiding deep inside the mountain. "Junior brother Lu, I'm here to bother you." A middle-aged monk with a gentle temperament and a dark sword box on his back slowly walked up the mountain. It turns out to be senior brother Shen. "It's been a long time since we last met. How are you doing recently?" The visitor was Shenyi, who introduced Lu Xuan to the sword hall. The two had met many times and were already quite familiar with each other. "Everything else is fine, but I've been thinking about your 3rd grade Wind and Thunder sword grass in my heart," Shenyi said half jokingly. Lu Xuan led him into the courtyard and brought him 2 spiritual fruits of ice and fire, as well as the 100 fruit spirit juice. "Junior brother Lu, how many more Wind and Thunder sword grass have you improved now?" Shenyi drank a mouthful of the 100 fruit spirit juice, feeling the changes in the taste of various spiritual fruits in his mouth, and asked slowly after a long time. "Several plants have been mutated and are being cultivated in the cave," Lu Xuan replied. "Oh, Junior brother Lu is really amazing. He can improve the 3rd grade Wind and Thunder sword grass at any time. I wonder if Junior brother has figured out the method to condense the seeds of Wind and Thunder sword grass." Shenyi straightened his back a lot after hearing this, and asked with some hope in his eyes. "It is currently in the trial stage, and I'm not very sure." Lu Xuan pondered for a while, and said in a low voice, "Although he has some ideas about the method to condense the seeds of Wind and Thunder sword grass, he still needs to verify the correctness of the method. Therefore, he was a little conservative when answering Shenyi, and did not say anything final. Hahaha, I believe that with junior brother Lu's talent in spiritual plants, there will be no problem." Shenyi laughed heartily. Lu Xuan's terrifying talent in cultivating spiritual plants such as sword grass along the way made him have almost blind confidence in Lu Xuan. "Senior brother has too high expectations of me." Lu Xuan smiled helplessly. "If I say you can do it, then you can do it. My vision will not be wrong." Shenyi said with a smile, and then changed the subject. I came here this time because I want to invite you, junior brother, for something. Oh. Please tell me, senior brother. Junior brother, you have been in the sword hall for quite some time, and I believe you have a deeper understanding of the sword hall. There is a sword pool in the sword hall. Have you heard of it, junior brother Lu? Lu Xuan nodded. I know a little about it. I heard that there are many high-grade swords and sword pills in it, and there are even 5th grade ones. That's right. The sword pool can warm swords, sword pills, etc. There are many swords left by the predecessors of the sect when they passed away, or flying swords updated by sword masters, high-grade flying swords forged by the sword-making masters of the sword hall, and so on. Every once in a while, the sword hall will provide some of the disciples with an opportunity to enter the sword pool and find the sword that suits them. However, the number of places to enter the sword pool is limited. Only those disciples with the most outstanding sword talent, or who have made significant contributions to the sword hall have the opportunity to enter. Although you have cultivated the mutated wind and thunder sword grass, starlight sword grass, ordinary 2nd grade sword grass, etc., you are still a little short of entering the sword pool. I know that you can definitely figure out the method to condense the wind and thunder sword grass. Plus, if you miss this opportunity, you will have to wait for many years before you can enter the sword pool. Therefore, I will try my best to get you the opportunity to enter the sword pool to find the sword. Shenyi said gently with a smile. Chapter 416, The God-Piercing Cone. Thank you, senior brother Shen, for seeking such a precious opportunity for me. Lu Xuan stood up and saluted with clasped fists. Although you can get many magical weapons from the light group rewards, and there are also swords such as the wind and thunder sword, the purple lightning sword, the sunder thunder sword pill, etc. But with the opportunity to enter the sword pool, who would think that he has too few treasures? Guangcha and sincerity is valuable, but free prostitution is even more expensive. Junior brother Lu, you don't have to be polite. You earned this all by yourself, junior brother. If you hadn't achieved a 100% success rate in cultivating sword grass, and you had the hope of obtaining a seed condensing method for 3rd grade sword grass, I would definitely not be able to. I grabbed this opportunity for you, Shenyi said in a deep voice. Junior brother, this is your first time to enter the sword pond. Let me introduce to you how to obtain sword treasures from it. The sword energy is raging in the sword pond. If you don't have the sect's token, you can enter it rashly, even a quasi-Dindan monk. After entering, you can choose swords, sword pills and other treasures by yourself. Lower grade swords can be forcibly collected. High grade swords have been cultivated in the sword pool for many years. They are likely to develop spirituality and need each other. If you agree with each other, you can choose the master of the spiritual sword. There are many factors that determine the owner of the high-grade sword Jianwen. The monk's sword skills, sword intention, and sword heart can all affect the choice of the sword. Of course, if you have deep luck. If so, these things won't seem so important. Junior brother, do you know senior sister Jian Wuxia, the true disciple of the sect? We met several times when the sect opened a new blessed land. Lu Xuan nodded lightly. Senior sister Jian Wuxia has an innate sword body and is very attractive to all kinds of swords, and pills. Every time she enters the sword pool, she gets the recognition of many swordsmen. There was a trace of vagueness in Shenyi's tone, envious. This talent in swordsmanship. Others go in to take risks, but she goes in to buy goods. Lu Xuan sighed secretly in his heart. By the way, senior brother Shen, has anyone from the same sect entered the sword pool before, but came out with nothing? Yes, it has happened. People with high vision looked down on ordinary swords and only wanted to obtain those high grade swords. But in the end I got nothing. Lu Xuan nodded quickly after hearing this, keeping the experience taught by Shenyi in mind. After Shenyi explained some precautions to him, he left without staying any longer. Lu Xuan watched him leave, then turned to the spiritual field and inspected the detailed status of many spiritual plants. While patrolling the spiritual field, I happened to encounter a grass puppet with 2 slender legs, patrolling tirelessly. With a thought in his mind, Lu Xuan called over the grass puppet who had been diligently guarding the spiritual field, and took out a green spiritual bead from the storage bag. The spirit bead is the spirit navigating grass bead that is extracted from the Zangyoan grass light group. It contains pure and rich plant spiritual energy and is especially suitable for feeding grass puppets. He stuffed the green spirit bead into the huge grey grass tumor of the grass puppet. Threads of emerald green spiritual energy spread from the center of the tumor to the surrounding areas. After a dozen breaths, the grass puppet's entire body changed from grey-black to emerald green, full of vitality. In the spiritual perception, the green spiritual beads condensed inside the grey grass tumor and slowly rotated, allowing the grass puppet to absorb the pure spiritual energy of the grass and trees. After absorbing many vegetation spiritual energy treasures, and even some 5th grade greenwood source energy, the grass puppet has developed a certain amount of intelligence. Like a baby, it expressed its gratitude to Lu Xuan, walking onto slender legs, continue to patrol the spiritual field. The remaining more than 100 water fireweeds have gradually entered the fully mature stage, and about 50 have to be left for seeding. In addition, if you advance to the realm of pill formation, the 2nd grade water fireweed light group the cultivation level inside is likely to be the same as before, and the cultivation rewards will be greatly reduced. You must prepare ahead of time to see if you can cultivate a 3rd grade mutated water fireweed. However, the 3rd grade spiritual plant, it already belongs to the category of foundation building. Unlike the 1st and 2nd grades, the gap between the grades is not that big, and the difficulty of improving the spiritual plant is probably much higher, Lu Xuan thought to himself. With the lessons learned from the spirit firefly grass, when he first broke through to foundation establishment, he decided to wait until his cultivation reached the late stage of foundation establishment to start improving the 2nd grade water firefly grass. While his thoughts were wandering, he came to a remote place on the mountain peak, and suddenly a melancholy sound sounded in his ears. The voice kept teasing the desire in his heart. Looking up, a pink miasma came into view. Among the pink and white peach leaves, fresh pink peaches were looming, half covered and occasionally exposed, as if to attract Lu Xuan to pounce on him and take a bite. Coupled with the melodious sound emitted by the phantom sound bamboo next to her, the level of infatuation increased by several levels. The visual and auditory temptations of the mystic peach and the magic sound bamboo are dual. No wonder the demonic vine comes here every day and stays there all day long. I'm so happy that I miss you. After picking the 3rd grade mystical peach once, it began to bear spiritual peaches again. After a while, another large amount of white light groups were obtained. Before Lu Xuan left, he cast a purifying spell on himself. He had no desires in his heart, and left in front of the 2 unorthodox spiritual plants with a calm expression. The last Yunling pine is mature. He came to the lonely Yunling pine. Yunling pine has been nourished by his spiritual consciousness for many years, and has long been connected with his mind. Waves of pine waves are set off from a distance, and a green pine cone stands proudly on the top, waiting for Lu Xuan to pick it. Lu Xuan confirmed that the translucent progress bar below was completely full, then reached out and gently picked off the green pine cone. The shape of the pine cone is like a peak tower, and its scales are like layers of crystal jade. The light flashes through it, and it feels smooth and clear when held in the hand. It's another spiritual pine cone, and it's still of good quality. I don't know what kind of reward it can give. He was extremely satisfied. Being able to harvest a good quality spiritual fruit from a 4th grade spiritual plant was far beyond his expectation. Lu Xuan had not eaten the 4 green pine cones produced by the 4 Yunling pines, so he put them in the gluttonous sacks and carefully collected them. After putting away the pine cones, Lu Xuan's eyes came to the top of the pine tree, and a white light group quietly emerged, flickering slightly. Unable to restrain his inner anticipation, he stretched out his hand and gently touched the surface of the light group. With a soft bang, the ball of light instantly exploded into countless tiny points of light, rushing into Lu Xuan's body. In an instant, he felt countless thin and sharp thoughts in his consciousness, and thoughts flashed across his mind. Harvest a 4th grade Yunling pine cone, and obtain a 5th grade magic weapon, the divine thorn cone. An awl quietly appeared in his hand. The awl was silvery white, more than half a foot long, with many dense and obscure hollow runes drawn on it. It was exquisite and extremely profound, seeming to attract Lu Xuan's soul. When observing with spiritual consciousness, I felt a sharp attack and a slight tingling sensation. Lu Xuan's mind focused on the silver white thorn, and detailed information about it suddenly flashed through the sea of consciousness. The stinging divine cone is a 5th grade magic weapon. When activated, it can cause great damage to the souls of monks, monsters, etc. In severe cases, the soul may even be exterminated and killed on the spot. Chapter 417 My Scabbard is Thirsty. 5th grade magic weapon. It's a special magic weapon for divine souls. Lu Xuan was overjoyed. Although the thorn cone in his hand had a single function, it was extremely powerful. Divine soul magic weapons are extremely rare and rare. Once used, they are hard to guard against and difficult to resist. There is one more 5th grade treasure. The Void Nightmare Eye, which is good at illusions and can detect large areas, has the Pure Yang True Fire barrel with the most powerful Pure Yang True Fire, and the Space Treasure Gluttonous Insect Bag, now added with a 5th grade Stinging God Cone. It is estimated that many true disciples in the sect will have a net worth like mine. A smile appeared on Lu Xuan's lips. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. With a thought in his mind, Lu Xuan summoned the fat bird, and his spiritual consciousness communicated with it, and it arrived outside the sword hall in less than half a moment. Passing through the sword energy restriction, he came to a towering mountain peak shaped like a sharp sword. Lu Xuan settled the fat bird, and the sword hall disciples came over to take the fat bird over, and extract it afterwards. Senior brother Shen. Lu Xuan found Shen Yi and greeted him. Junior brother Lu, you are here. Shen Yi said gently with a smile. Senior brother, please take me to the sword pool. Easy to say. Shen Yi nodded and led Lu Xuan into a vast hall. There were already 7 or 8 sword hall disciples waiting in the hall, some holding swords or carrying sword cases on their backs, each with extraordinary bearing. This is Zhang Beiyu, who has cultivated in the late stage of foundation establishment and is proficient in sword formation. This is Shi Heio, who has cultivated in the middle stage of foundation establishment. He has reached the level of proficiency in several high-grade sword techniques and has mastered several different sword intentions. This is Shen Yi introduced Lu Xuan to the sword hall disciples in the hall one by one. This is junior brother Lu Xuan Lu. He is in the middle stage of foundation establishment. He may not be the best among you in swordsmanship, but he has an extremely terrifying ability to cultivate sword grass. So far, the success rate is 100%, and there is no lack of good quality. It's even possible to improve a new 3rd grade sword grass. Hello, junior brother Lu. A fellow disciple of the late foundation establishment school named Zhang Beiyu greeted Lu Xuan with a smile. He has a handsome figure and a round face that looks like a Maitreya Buddha with a kind smile. Hello, junior brother Lu. Some of the 7 or 8 fellow disciples greeted him warmly, not looking down upon Lu Xuan at all, because of his identity as a spiritual planter. According to Shen Yi, although Lu Xuan's swordsmanship may be average, he is naturally good at being able to enter the sword pond to find swords. There were 2 or 3 others who just nodded slightly, with slightly cold expressions. These people were all obsessed with swords and spent most of their time and energy practicing sword techniques and honing their sword skills. They didn't care that Lu Xuan was qualified to enter the sword pool by cultivating sword grass. Of course, they are all from the same school, and there is no conflict of interest, so there is no behavior of ridicule and contempt. There was a smile on Lu Xuan's lips. He would chime in with those who came up to make friends, but he would not take the initiative to warm up to those who were indifferent to him. He did not refute Shen Yi's statement that his swordsmanship was average. After absorbing many sword art experience packs, he has reached an extremely sophisticated level in the 4-season sword art, wind and thunder sword art, and starlight sword art. He also carefully cultivated 2 4th grade sword grasses, sword peacock and sword thousand zero, and used the sword Xuan sword formation very frequently. The corresponding thousand owl sword Xuan peacock sword formation are also at a higher level. Maybe he is not as good as all the swordsman geniuses in the hall, but he is confident that he will not be at the bottom, and his average level is still there. Although I don't have the talent for swordsmanship, and don't have a lot of time to practice sword arts, I do have the light group experience package. Lu Xuan thought secretly. After waiting for a while, a woman with a cold temperament walked into the spacious hall. The woman has a slender sword that looks like a swimming dragon pinned to her hair. A pair of delicate sword earrings hang from her earlobes. She sways gently as she walks, with a subtle sword energy lingering around her. It was Xuan Wuxia who had met several times in the new blessed land full of mutant spiritual plants. He was one of the 17 true successors in the sect and a frequent visitor to the sword pool. Senior Sister Wuxia, Lu Xuan and everyone else greeted him respectfully. It can be seen that she has a very high prestige among many swordsman geniuses, and there is even a hint of fanaticism in the eyes of several people looking at her. In this treasure hunt in the sword pond, I will lead the team for you. I will lead you into the sword pond together, to maintain the stability of the sword pond and the order among the fellow sects. I hope that we can advance and retreat together and not hurt the friendship between the fellow sects. The cold woman said softly. He nodded lightly and spoke softly, his voice like cold spring water. Okay. Everything depends on Senior Sister. Everyone agreed. Xuan Wuxia waved one hand, and 10 special spiritual fruit-like things appeared in the low air, spinning around everyone. The spirit fruit seemed to be composed of countless tiny sword rays, automatically condensing together, and endless sword energy that was imperceptible to the naked eye was surging inside, as if it could burst out with extremely terrifying power at any time. A few of you are entering the sword pool for the first time, so I'll give you a brief introduction. Xuan Wuxia stretched out her hand, and 10 sword energy spirit fruits slowly floated into the sky above her palm. This is the sword fruit, a special treasure condensed from countless sword energies in the sword pool. It is the key factor to stay in the sword pool for a long time. There are countless powerful and mysterious sword energies swimming around in the sword pool. If you notice someone invading it, you will swarm forward and face the siege of countless sword ki at the same time. With this sword fruit, the aura on your body can be integrated with the sword pool, and the sword ki will not actively attack you in a wide range. Of course, it cannot. Therefore, if you are careless and wantonly provoke Giant's sword energy, they will still attack you. By then, the sword fruit may not be able to save you. Xuan Wuxia introduced to everyone in detail, one sword fruit flying above the palm of his hand. In front of everyone, Lu Xuan curiously picked off this special sword spirit fruit, felt the slight sharpness in his palm, and observed it carefully with interest. As a spiritual planter, I'm extremely sensitive to the word fruit. Junior brother Lu, this is your first time entering the sword pool. If you don't understand anything, just ask me. Xuan Wuxia took a few steps forward, came to Lu Xuan, and asked softly. Thank you for your concern, Senior Sister Wuxia. There is nothing unclear at the moment. If there is any need for Senior Sister's help, Junior brother, I will not be polite. Lu Xuan said quickly. Seeing Xuan Wuxia take the initiative to ask Lu Xuan, the eyes of several Giant Tang disciples who had previously been indifferent towards Lu Xuan immediately changed. Xuan Wuxia was respected in their hearts, and he could convince the proud people in the way of swordsmanship. They did not expect that such a being would deign to take the initiative, to care for a sword and grass spiritual planter. Lu Xuan took a few steps back without leaving a trace, gently threw the sword spirit fruit in his hand, and felt the throbbing from the Yangtze sword scabbard on his waist. After seeing many sword hall disciples, Lu Xuan could feel a sense of desire from the scabbard. After 10 sword fruits appeared, this desire reached the extreme. My scabbard is already thirsty. Lu Xuan couldn't help but think. Chapter 418, Scabbard Selection. After Xuan Wuxia gave detailed instructions on the matters to be dealt with, after entering the sword pool, he took out a section of the black sword blade. A large amount of spiritual power poured into the black sword blade, and soon, endless black sword light appeared on the sword blade, and the sword light instantly filled the entire hall and shot out wantonly. Xuan Wuxia pinched the seal, and a strong and unmatched sword intent rose from the center of the hall, wrapping Lu Xuan and the others and disappearing instantly. Is this the mysterious sword pool? After Lu Xuan was in a trance for a few breaths, he opened his eyes and found himself in a strange space. A world of sword energy. The ground was covered with countless flying sword debris, and from time to time, sharp sword energy and sword light of various shapes and sizes shot out from it. The sword energy in the air was like covering the sky and the sun, and the ears were filled with the whistling sound of the sword energy passing by quickly. Occasionally, in the distance, you can see the powerful sword energy rushing straight into the sky, accompanied by the sound of the sword ringing. Yes, this is the sword pool, the core of the sword hall, with a profound foundation beyond imagination. There are countless high-grade flying swords in it. It is even rumored that a fellow disciple has obtained treasures such as the 5th grade sword and sword pill from it. A gentle voice sounded not far from Xuan. Xuan looked in the direction of the voice and saw that it was Zhang who looked like Maitreya Buddha. As soon as the voice fell, before he could respond to the other party, the endless sword energy around him seemed to sense the strange breath of Xuan and others. With a swishing sound, they swarmed up and attacked Xuan and the others at a high speed. Dozens of feet away, a huge silver-white sword light appeared out of thin air and came in front of the two in an instant. Xuan only felt a white mist in his eyes, and his mind was lost for a moment. When he was about to urge King Fury to dodge the sword light, suddenly, the sword fruit in his hand floated out by itself, and the sword energy inside was rampant. The unstoppable silver-white sword light just now, together with the sharp sword energy that was everywhere, all died down and bypassed Xuan and the others. Brother Lu, don't panic. With the sword fruit in hand, the sword energy in the sword pool will not actively attack us. Seeing Xuan's cautious expression, Zhang Beiyu comforted him. Brother, this is my first time entering the sword pool. Although I'm mentally prepared, I still can't keep a calm mind when I see so many sword energies attacking me. Xuan took the initiative to explain. I came here once before, so I'm more experienced than you, Brother Lu. Brother Zhang, according to what you said, the sword energy in the sword pool will not actively attack our sect's cultivators, but what if there is a special situation? For example, if a fellow disciple accidentally drops a sword fruit, or subdues a flying sword, and the sword fruit is damaged in the process of competing with other fellow disciples for the sword, will it cause a group attack of sword energy? Xuan asked curiously. If the sword fruit is lost or damaged, it will naturally no longer have a protective effect. Although this situation has some risks, it is still not a big problem. The fellow disciples who can enter the sword pool can resist the sword energy of the sword pool for a while. During this process, they can ask for help from other fellow disciples who have sword fruits. If there is really no other way, they can also contact the giant and uncle who is guarding the sword pool. Zhang Beiyu explained, while guiding Xuan to slowly shuttle through the sword energy. I see. Xuan nodded gently, his palm turned into a crystal jade color, and he took the initiative to reach out to touch the subtle sword energy lingering around him. The sword energy sensed the familiar breath on the sword fruit, and took the initiative to avoid Xuan's palm like a fish. Junior Brother Lu, I believe you already know that there are many high-grade swords and sword pills in the sword pool. Over time, many swords gradually show strange phenomena and even produce a trace of spirituality. For example, the silver-white sword light just now, if I guessed correctly, should be the sword light imitated by a 3rd grade flying sword. There are a lot of 3rd grade swords in the sword pool. If Junior Brother Lu does not have the confidence to obtain a 4th grade sword and sword pill, you can first obtain a 3rd grade one as a backup. The time that the disciples of the sword hall can stay in the sword pool is limited, only half a day. During this period, it takes a lot of time to search and subdue high-grade swords and sword pills. In addition, in order to avoid the situation where someone subdues too many swords, the sword hall stipulates that each disciple of the sword hall can only obtain 2 swords at most. Often, because disciples do not want to waste precious opportunities on 3rd grade swords and sword pills, they only want to obtain higher grade and rarer flying swords, but in the end they get nothing. If you find a sword you like, you can use your sword skills to subdue it. If you can't subdue it, you can also try to suppress it with your cultivation level. No way, the high grade swords in the sword pool are very picky. Only when they encounter a congenital sword body like senior sister Xuan Wuxia will they take the initiative to approach. When people like us get close, those spiritual swords will take the initiative to avoid them. Therefore, if you encounter a sword you like, you must seize the fleeting opportunity and subdue them at the speed of thunder. Zhang Beiyu smiled bitterly and continued to remind Xuan, if you have talent, you can do whatever you want. Xuan agreed. Thank you for reminding me, Senior Brother Zhang. I wish you can get the treasure you like. he said to Zhang gratefully, and the two of them chose a direction and walked into the sword energy. Subduing swords requires the disciples of the sword hall to do it themselves. Using others may cause a reverse effect. At the same time, if you encounter a sword that both of you like, it will be difficult to divide it. Therefore, the two of them tacitly separated their actions. As they gradually went deeper into the sword pool, Lu Xuan saw more and more sword ki anomalies, including various strange and ferocious beasts, objects that were materialized by sword ki with different spiritual attributes, and even glimpsed the sun, moon, stars, mountains, rivers and other spectacular and majestic anomalies from afar. In the endless sword ki, the effect of spiritual awareness was greatly weakened, and the distance that could be peaked was less than 1/10 of the normal distance. When encountering sword ki anomalies, the Xuan sword sheath on his waist trembled slightly from time to time, and the spirituality inside the sword sheath seemed to urge Lu Xuan to search and subdue them quickly. Your slutty sword sheath. Seeing so many swords, are you about to be unable to bear it? Lu Xuan sent a teasing thought. After he continuously inserted the Xuan sword sheath into the purple lightning sword, wind and thunder sword, emerald small sword and other flying swords, as well as sword light and sword ki, it has slowly begun to adapt to its identity. When encountering a flying sword that he likes, such as the emerald small sword, it is even more half-hearted and reluctant. Before the insertion, there was a symbolic resistance, but after the insertion, they merged into one. Wait for me to choose a high quality flying sword for you and satisfy you. Lu Xuan paid attention to the changes in the sword energy around him. This area has a strong aura of water spirits. There should be a water attributed flying sword hidden here. The moisture should not be a problem. There is probably a fire attributed flying sword here. The aura is so violent and fierce. I don't know if your slutty scabbard can withstand it. Do you like the flying sword of the monster image? He muttered to himself while searching for the sword energy image. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 419 Thunder Sound Sword. This sword energy image looks pretty good. A snow white dragon phantom formed by countless sword energy flashed past Lu Xuan. Among the many beast sword energy images he had seen before, they were all ordinary tigers and leopards, which did not arouse Lu Xuan's interest. But the sword energy of this one in front of him was much stronger than before, and the shape looked extremely extraordinary, so Lu Xuan became a little curious. The green shoes under his feet appeared with spiritual light, and his figure suddenly accelerated several times, following the snow white dragon sword energy phantom. When he got close to the dragon phantom and observed the surrounding situation, Lu Xuan pounced on the snow white dragon like a sharp arrow. The sword energy dragon noticed Lu Xuan's action and shook its tail vigorously. Suddenly, countless snow white sword beams rushed towards Lu Xuan from all directions. Although the various sword energies in the sword pool would not actively attack the disciples of the sword hall carrying sword fruits, it did not mean that the disciples would be allowed to act recklessly. When they encountered disciples who wanted to subdue them, they would also fight back. Lu Xuan waved the wind and thunder sword in his hand, and the deep black sword energy swept like a hurricane, facing the snow white sword light, wrapping many sword lights in it, and destroying it with a ferocious posture. The snow white dragon shadow has already produced a trace of spirituality. Seeing that Lu Xuan is extremely difficult to deal with, the shadow differentiates into countless fine sword lights, and its figure directly dissipates in the sword energy. Still want to escape? Scabbard, for your own happiness, lock it. Lu Xuan passed a thought to Xuan's scabbard. The spirituality of the scabbard is far stronger than the previous snow white dragon shadow. Hearing Lu Xuan's words, it trembled slightly, broke free from Lu Xuan's waist, and pointed in a direction from a distance. After a moment, Lu Xuan passed through the sword energy, and found the snow white dragon that condensed again. The dragon shadow hid in a dark cave, hiding its figure very well. Although the cave was dark, Lu Xuan, who practiced the pupil technique, could see the scene inside. Deep in the cave, a snow-white sword floated quietly in the low sky. Its color was like bright moonlight, but it was swallowed by the endless darkness, so it did not reveal the dazzling sword body. In the sword pool, Xuan could not use the white bone magic puppet to lure it out, so he had to rely on his strong body to subdue the snow-white flying sword directly. The snow-white dragon phantom hiding in the dark sensed the danger, hummed, and turned into a huge virtual flying sword, stabbing Xuan fiercely. It was very fast, and came in front of Xuan in an instant. Xuan's expression did not change. His hands were clasped together, and he directly caught the huge flying sword phantom. He had taken countless spiritual fruits that strengthened his physical body, and practiced the Liuli bone forging method and Teksuhua Langpian and other superior body training methods. When he caught the flying sword phantom, his palms did not even scratch the skin. The huge force from his hands surged to the sword energy phantom, directly shattering the dragon phantom, and countless tiny sword beams burst out everywhere, landing on the cave wall, leaving countless tiny sword marks. Seeing this, Xuan came to the snow-white flying sword and gently picked it up. The sword was snow-white, and about 3 feet long. There were many small scales on the hilt, extending all the way to the sword. To know how good the flying sword is, we need the scabbard to test it. The snow-white flying sword fiercely thrust into the ancient scabbard. At the crack of the scabbard, a thin film of spiritual energy symbolically blocked it, but was directly penetrated by the snow-white flying sword, all the way to the deepest part of the scabbard. As early as when he got the Xuan scabbard, by injecting sword energy, Xuan was able to observe its detailed state. Seeing the snow-white flying sword inserted into the scabbard, his mind was focused on the ancient scabbard. Xuan scabbard, an unknown treasure, with extremely strong spirituality, forged from the outer sword stone. The 4th grade flying sword, the fish dragon sword, is being nurtured. The fish dragon sword, a 4th grade sword, is forged from the spine of the demon beast whitefish dragon, and is extremely sharp. 4th grade fish dragon sword. Xuan muttered to himself. He learned the ins and outs of the snow-white flying sword inserted into the scabbard through the specific state of the scabbard. A 4th grade flying sword is already pretty good, but should I spend a chance on it? Xuan was quite satisfied with this 4th grade fish dragon sword. After all, although he had many 4th grade sword symbols in his hand, there was only one wind and thunder sword of the same grade flying sword, which showed how rare the 4th grade flying sword was. I don't have the active attraction like Giant Wuxia. I mainly rely on my own strength to subdue the flying sword. It's not a big problem to deal with a 4th grade flying sword. The most important thing is that I have the support of the Xuan sword scabbard. The scabbard is extremely sensitive to the sword key anomalies derived from the sword, and can sense the location of the anomalies, which saves me a lot of time looking for it. After finding the sword, I can also insert it into the scabbard to learn the detailed information of the sword, which is also a big advantage. With enough strength and unique advantages, there is no need to rush to confirm the only 2 chances. Xuan thought secretly and decided to temporarily abandon the fish dragon sword in his hand. He slowly pulled the snow-white flying sword out of the scabbard. When it was fully pulled out, the subtle sword energy seemed to be pulled into a thread. I don't ask for eternity, I just ask for having it once. It's good to have experienced a new flying sword. I'll find you a better one later. Xuan promised the scabbard that he was reluctant to part with. A dim snow-white dragon shadow flew out of the sword body, entangled the fish dragon sword, and merged back into the darkness. Xuan left the cave, bent his body, and continued to shuffle slowly in the sword energy. He walked for half an hour. During this time, he encountered several flying swords of the same grade as the fish dragon sword. Each had its own advantages, but they could not make Xuan very satisfied. In the end, he let the scabbard experience them, and then separated them. Suddenly, a burst of thunder exploded in his ears. The sound of thunder seemed to contain the power to scare away all evil spirits, and there was a hint of zen in the aftertaste, as if the Vajra defeated the demons with compassion and thunder. The Xuan scabbard was shaking violently, and the reaction was very strong. It could not wait to fly forward, guiding Xuan to search for the sword behind the thunder. Such a big reaction. Do you like this kind of seemingly dignified, but very good at shouting? Xuan secretly speculated. Thunders burst one after another, as if blocking Lu Xuan's direction. There was no evil spirit in his body, and his cultivation was entirely increased by the light ball, without giving evil spirits the opportunity to pollute and invade. The thunder had little effect on him, but only caused the blood to vibrate. With a strong body, he could quickly control the vibrating blood. After a while, Lu Xuan found a silver-white dagger under the guidance of the ancient scabbard. There were subtle golden lines on the dagger, as if endless thunder was striking down. He inserted the silver-white dagger into the Xuan scabbard and instantly learned detailed information about the dagger. The Thunder Sound Sword is a 4th grade flying sword, forged with meteorites from outer space and Buddhist secret techniques. When used, it can produce sword energy and thunder sound. The thunder sound is fierce and overbearing, and contains the power of Buddhism. It has a miraculous effect on evil spirits and evil cultivators. Chapter 420, Pushing the Limits. The 4th grade Thunder Sound Sword can stimulate the sword energy and thunder sound, which has a strong restraining effect on evil spirits and evil cultivators. Lu Xuan muttered to himself, looking at the silver-white short sword in his hand. In his eyes, this Thunder Sound Sword is much stronger than the fish dragon sword he encountered before. It is born with the special sword energy and thunder sound, which is even more effective when facing evil cultivators and evil spirits. More importantly, according to Lu Xuan's speculation, this 4th grade Thunder Sound Sword with the power of Buddhism may be used to cultivate the Vajrabodhi spiritual plant. The Vajrabodhi is currently placed in that incomplete secret realm. Since only the soul guiding Zen incense can slightly promote the growth of the spiritual plant, the Bodhi spiritual seed has not changed much. Now, with this 4th grade Thunder Sound Sword, it may be possible to make the spiritual seed take root and sprout. At the same time, the sword energy and thunder sound released by the flying sword are also of great benefit to the 4th grade fantasy sound bamboo. The quality and characteristics of the Li Iron Sword are very good. In addition, Lu Xuan took the Vajrabodhi into consideration. He did not hesitate, and decided to choose this Li Iron Sword as the first sword in the sword pool. It's better to make a decision early, so as not to hesitate all the time, or even pick up sesame seeds and lose watermelons. Lu Xuan thought secretly in his heart. He fiercely inserted the silver-white dagger into the ancient scabbard. Too short, short and weak another sword. The Xuan scabbard conveyed a slight thought, and there seemed to be a hint of mockery in the thought. Lu Xuan's palm turned into a crystal jade color, and he stabbed the silver-white dagger deep into the scabbard. Did you not eat? Can you push hard behind the sword? The Xuan scabbard, which was developed by many swords such as the Purple Lightning Sword and the Wind and Thunder Sword, was not satisfied with the shortness of the new sword. A question mark flashed through Lu Xuan's mind. He also asked me to push the flying sword hard from behind. What kind of behavior is this? His spiritual power poured into the Thunder Sound Sword. Suddenly, a low and muffled thunder sound came from the inside of the ancient scabbard, shaking the scabbard constantly, and the sword energy was radiating. The Xuan scabbard was hit by waves of sword energy and thunder sound, and finally calmed down. It's already very good to get this flying sword of a few inches long, and I want to get a flying sword of a few feet long. Don't push it too far. Lu Xuan passed a thought to the ancient scabbard, leaving the silver-white short sword in the scabbard, and the special aura inside the scabbard was used to warm and temper the flying sword. After subduing the Thunder Sound Sword, Lu Xuan continued to shuttle through the subtle sword energy in the sky. After a while, he came to a strange stone mountain. The mountain was covered with rugged rocks, and there were countless sword marks of varying depths on the surface of the rocks. The sword wind whistled through the cracks and holes of the rocks, and the sound was sharp. Brother Shiheo? Lu Xuan found a familiar figure in front of him. It was one of the disciples of the sword hall who entered the sword pool together. Shen Yi had specially introduced him in the hall, saying that he mastered several kinds of sword intent, and had profound sword skills. Brother Lu, I didn't expect to meet you here. Shiheo was searching for the strange image of sword energy in the infinite sword energy. When he heard Lu Xuan's call, he turned around, and a smile appeared on his face. That can be regarded as fate. Lu Xuan replied. The sword pool is vast and there are countless sword energies raging. It is inconvenient to move. There are only 10 disciples of the sword hall who entered the sword pool. It is indeed unlikely that the two will meet. Brother Lu, can you subdue the sword? Shiheo asked curiously. I'm lucky. I got one. It's not bad. I'm personally quite satisfied. Lu Xuan said briefly. He knew the principle of not showing off wealth, so he did not show the Li Iron Sword. Although the sword pool was full of fellow disciples of the sect and there was a giant and master in charge of the sword pool, the safety was guaranteed. But Lu Xuan did not want to use himself to test the humanity of his fellow disciples and the ability of his uncle who had reached the giant and stage. Me too. I got a guaranteed 3rd grade sword and was thinking about whether I could find a better flying sword. Shiheo smiled. When Lu Xuan was about to say goodbye to him, suddenly, in front of Shiheo, a strange rock several feet high appeared. A black snake sword spirit shot out from it and fled to the top of the mountain. The black snake was about half a foot long, black all over, with wings, and moved extremely quickly. It disappeared in front of the two of them in a few seconds. As fast as lightning. It must be a 4th grade flying sword that excels in speed. Shiheo blurted out. He turned his head and looked at Lu Xuan with a flickering look in his eyes. Junior brother Lu, this black snake sword is so fast, and its spirituality seems to be extraordinary. It is probably a 4th grade flying sword of good quality. You and I discovered it at the same time. Why don't we each rely on our own abilities to see who has better sword skills and can subdue this flying sword? His mind turned quickly and he thought of a way. The reason why Lu Xuan was able to enter the sword pool did not mean that he had superb sword skills. He was qualified to enter simply because of his ability to cultivate sword grass. Shiheo was very confident in his swordsmanship. He believed that, even if Lu Xuan fought for the black snake sword, he would have a great chance of winning. No, senior brother Shi, I know my own strengths and weaknesses. I'm not sure about subduing that flying sword. It's better for you to subdue it by yourself. Junior brother, I will take my leave first. Lu Xuan said with a fist. Junior brother Lu, this favor, I will remember it in my heart. Shiheo was stunned, then bowed and said gratefully. Lu Xuan smiled slightly and walked down the mountain. The black snake shadow just now, although its aura was not weak, was far from Lu Xuan's expectations. Even compared with the fish dragon sword he encountered before, it was slightly inferior, not to mention the thunder sound sword he had already obtained. The reaction of the scabbard was the best proof. It was better to do a favor and save some time to search for a better sword. After a while, Lu Xuan saw a nebula hanging in front of him from afar, with stars flickering inside, and sword energy flashing. I want this. The Yangtze scabbard, which was experiencing the new sword, passed a thought to Lu Xuan. The thunder sound sword is still in your body, and you want to change it for a new one right away. You scum sword who loves new things and hates old ones. Lu Xuan spitted at the ancient scabbard, and the green shoes under his feet emerged with spiritual light. His figure was like a light smoke, silently approaching the nebular image. Those who can be recognized by the scabbard are naturally good stuff. Alas, it's my scabbard spirituality that has been damaged. I must find more good partners for it and let it return to normal as soon as possible. Lu Xuan pretended to sigh. When he came to the bottom of the nebula, he was about to find an opportunity to subdue it, but suddenly his mind was in a trance, as if he was in the vast starry sky, dotted with countless stars, and from time to time there were meteor-like sword energy passing by, bypassing Lu Xuan who had the sword fruit. It's worthy of the sword I've chosen. It's really extraordinary. Lu Xuan sighed, and his mind moved. The 5th grade treasure Yunshantai in the depths of his sea of consciousness emitted a hazy spiritual light, and his mind was clear. The starry sky scene suddenly melted rapidly and disappeared. Lu Xuan opened his eyes, and countless dark sword lights appeared around the wind and thunder sword in his hand, like a hurricane, with lightning and thunder inside, and quickly rolled towards the nebula. Chapter 421 Nebula Sword Formation. The nebula sword key vision was full of spirituality. It sensed the powerful threat of the deep black wind and thunder sword key. The nebula rotated, and several meteor-like sword key cut through the starry sky and attacked Lu Xuan. Lu Xuan was not afraid. He controlled the wind and thunder sword, along with countless deep black sword beams, and faced the meteor sword key head-on. With a puff, the first meteor sword key shattered, and countless tiny sword key burst like fireworks, blending into the ordinary sword key in the sky. The remaining force of the wind and thunder sword did not decrease. It cleverly adjusted like an antelope hanging its horns, and faced the second meteor sword key. The quality of the 4th grade Wind and Thunder sword itself was good. It was integrated into the Zunlei sword pill obtained by Lu Xuan before, and was warmed for a long time by the mysterious Xuan sword sheath, and its quality was further improved. In addition, Lu Xuan absorbed several experience packs of Wind and Thunder Sword Sutra, and got a lot of opportunities to practice sword skills when cultivating the Wind and Thunder Sword grass. Although the sword hidden behind this nebula is very good, it is not driven by a cultivator, and there is no spiritual power to mobilize. It relies entirely on the instinct of the sword, and it was quickly defeated in the direct battle with Lu Xuan. A 3-foot flying sword fell into Lu Xuan's hand. The sword body was extremely gorgeous, as if there were nebulae flowing. With a slight tremor, the sword energy burst out at a very fast speed, and a special power was hidden. According to the usual practice, Lu Xuan pulled the Li iron sword out of the scabbard and put it in the new flying sword. His mind was focused on the Xuan sword sheath, and a thought flashed through his mind. Xuan sword sheath, unknown treasure. The 4th grade nebula sword is being nurtured. Nebula sword, a set of flying swords. A complete sword has 9 flying swords scattered all over the sword pool. The flying sword is forged with meteorite iron, which contains some star power, and can attract star power. Multiple nebula swords can form a nebula sword formation. The more there are, the more powerful the sword formation is. The complete nebula sword formation is as powerful as a 5th grade flying sword. Nebula sword, a set of flying swords, can form a nebula sword formation, but it's a pity that there is only one flying sword here. Lu Xuan was happy at first, but then he thought with regret. A 4th grade flying sword can form a sword formation comparable to a 5th grade flying sword, which shows how powerful the nebula sword formation is. Should I take this incomplete nebula sword? He hesitated. Suddenly, a flash of inspiration came to his mind, as if he had discovered a great loophole. 9 nebula swords form a complete sword weapon. If I find a few more nebula swords, can it be counted as one sword weapon quota? Well, it can even be said to be less than one. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that this method was feasible. There may be less than 9 nebula swords in the sword pool, but if a few more are found, they can form a nebula sword formation, which is far stronger than the power of the 4th grade flying sword itself. Given the desire and sensitivity of the Xuan sword sheath for high-grade swords, it is not a big problem to find the remaining nebula swords in the sword pool. The key depends on how the sword holder finds it. In theory, a few nebula swords cannot be considered a complete sword, but the right of interpretation is in the hands of the giant and master and the sword hole seniors. Well, let's find a few nebula swords first. If it doesn't work, you can come to the sword pool to search later. Anyway, you will soon know the method of condensing the seeds of the Wind and Thunder sword grass, and cultivate 2 4th grade sword grasses, and it will be no problem to have the qualification to enter. Lu Xuan thought confidently. He lifted the ancient scabbard at his waist, and sent a thought. How about this new flying sword? Do you have the wonderful feeling of being in the starry sky? The end of the scabbard gently nodded, and was very satisfied with the newly inserted nebula sword. There are still several flying swords like this in the sword pool. Lu Xuan's tone was full of temptation. Do you want to experience double swords, or even multiple swords? If you want, find the other nebula swords for me, and I will satisfy you then. Go. Scum scabbard. Lu Xuan released the ancient scabbard in his hand. With the support of his spiritual power, the scabbard ignored the sword energy in the sky, and swam straight in the low sky. After half an hour, Lu Xuan successfully found the second nebular anomaly, and obtained the second nebula sword. The ancient scabbard felt the wonderful feeling of the 2 nebula swords for a while, and continued to search for the third nebula sword with full motivation. Another nebular anomaly was found. Lu Xuan saw a nebular anomaly in a valley from a distance, and he was happy. He held the sword fruit in his hand and quickly shuttled through the sword energy in the sky. Soon, he came to a few feet away from the nebular anomaly. With 2 experiences of conquering, he was already experienced. The soul-enhancing post in his sea of consciousness exuded a hazy spiritual light, keeping his mind clear. Just as he was about to subdue the nebula vision, suddenly, a sword energy lotus flower appeared below the vision. Its petals were long and thin, like a sharp sword. As the lotus flower spun, Countless sharp sword petals rushed towards the nebula vision. Junior brother Lou, you and I discovered this nebula vision at about the same time, so we can't decide who owns it. I have a great interest in the flying sword behind the vision. If you are the same, we can only rely on our own abilities to see who can subdue the flying sword. A young monk with a sinister temperament and pale skin walked out slowly. The sword energy lotus flower slowly spun and flew into his hand. It turned out to be senior brother Bei. Lu Xuan had some impression of this sinister young man. His surname was Bei, and he was in the late stage of foundation building. Among the 10 people who entered the sword hall, his strength should be in the top 3. To be honest, senior brother, I'm indeed somewhat interested in this flying sword. Although I'm weak and my sword skills are ordinary, I still want to compete with senior brother Bei for this flying sword, as it is related to the nebula sword formation with the strength of the Jiandan realm. Lu Xuan will naturally not give up this third flying sword. Countless dark sword rays emerge from the wind and thunder sword in his hand. Okay, you and I will focus on competing for the flying sword. We should stop at a certain point and don't hurt the harmony of fellow disciples. The sinister young man originally thought that with his late foundation building cultivation and decades of immersion in the exquisite sword art, Lu Xuan would leave tactfully. Unexpectedly, he was so short-sighted that he wanted to compete with him for the flying sword. He sneered in his heart and maintained the superficial friendship of fellow disciples. The lotus in his hand bloomed instantly, with countless layers of sword energy petals, and several small lotus seeds condensed from countless sword energy, each of which contained terrifying power. Just as he was about to seize the flying sword, while dealing with Lu Xuan, the nebula image floating in the air changed dramatically. The rotating nebula collapsed instantly, and a magnificent flying sword shot out at lightning speed, flying directly in front of Lu Xuan. Lu Xuan reacted very quickly. When he was about to deal with the nebula sword, suddenly, a slight thought came from the scabbard, and the nebula sword directly sank into the crack of the scabbard, and squeezed together with its 2 companions. The Xuan scabbard can warm up the flying sword, and improve the quality of the flying sword. It has a great attraction to the spiritual nebula sword. In addition, the breath of the same source from the scabbard. After sensing the unfavorable situation, the nebula sword chose to enter the scabbard on its own. I wonder if senior brother Bei has heard of the sword choosing its master. This is probably the case with me, right? Lu Xuan spread his hands and said with a smile. Chapter 422, The Path to the Harem of the Scabbard. How could this happen? A trace of surprise flashed in the eyes of the sinister young man. This was not the first time he entered the sword pool, but he had never heard of such a sword throwing itself into his arms, let alone seeing it with his own eyes. Even if it was Jian Wuxia, a true disciple with an innate sword body, the swords in the sword pool would only behave obediently in front of her, and would not take the initiative to deliver them to her. Is it really the sword that chooses its master? He looked puzzled, and said secretly in his heart. As a genius of the sword of the Xianji insect, he came to the sword pool, used the sword, and said harsh words, but was suddenly intercepted by a spiritual plant master. This made him, who had always been proud, unable to accept it. Since this sword has fallen into the hands of junior brother Lu, I can only give up and say goodbye. The sinister young man snorted coldly, turned his head, and entered the subtle sword energy in the sky, and disappeared in a few moments. There was no way. If the sword was still ownerless at the beginning, he could still rely on his superb skills to defeat Lu Xuan, and compete for the sword. But after the sword fell into Lu Xuan's hands, the nature of the fight was different. It changed from normal competition to robbery. In the sword pool controlled by the Jiandan Zenran, it was very unlikely to hide the treasures of fellow disciples, and it was likely to be severely punished afterwards. I didn't expect you to have a good eye. Lu Xuan pulled the third nebula sword out of the Xuan sword sheath, and couldn't help but sigh. The nebula sword was full of spirituality, and was at the forefront among the 4th grade flying swords. After sensing the magical features of the scabbard and the aura of the same source inside, it did not go head to head with the Yinjiu youth, but took the initiative to surrender to the ancient scabbard. It's that fellow disciple. Although he looks average, he is barely abiding by the rules in the sword pool. Otherwise, if you want to win this nebula sword, you need to consume several 4th grade sword talismans. Lu Xuan muttered to himself, letting the scabbard sense it, and went in the direction it pointed. After nearly an hour, he found the fourth nebula sword. 4 flying swords with nebula flows were inserted into the ancient scabbards, making the scabbards feel pain and joy. As the number of nebula swords increased, the difficulty of finding them also increased. The time to stay in the sword pool was only half a day. During the process of searching for the sword, Xuan's spiritual consciousness was greatly weakened, and the speed could not be too fast. After all, there were subtle sword ki everywhere, and the sword ki in the sky was moving at high speed. If Xuan increased the speed too much, I'm afraid that the sword fruit would not be able to react. In addition, the area of the sword pool is vast and the depth is unknown. Xuan is quite satisfied to find 4 nebula swords. The time for treasure hunting is always short, and half a day passed in a blink of an eye. Okay, the time is coming. Let's meet here. Only a low voice was heard, and countless sword ki in the sword pool was stirring endlessly. At the center, a huge sword ki rose to the sky like a pillar of light. In any corner of the sword pool, you can see the huge pillar of light of sword ki. Under the threat of the huge sword energy light column, the tiny sword energy in the entire sword pool slowed down a lot, and the threat to the monks in the sword pool was also reduced. Seeing this, Xuan and the other 10 people used their own methods, and rushed to the direction of the light column at full speed. When Xuan came to the light column, he looked around carefully, and did not see the giant and Zenran in the sword pool. 6 fellow disciples had been waiting under the light column for a long time, with different expressions, satisfaction, regret, etc. Xuan saw Jian Wuxia standing quietly, and moved closer to her. Sister Wuxia, I have something unclear, and I want to ask you. Xuan whispered. Junior brother Lu, please speak, I will tell you everything I know. The moment Jian Wuxia opened her eyes, she was like the edge of a sharp sword, extremely sharp. When she saw Xuan, her upper eyelids drooped, and her expression gradually softened. That's right. I know the rules for entering the sword hall. Each disciple of the sword hall can only subdue 2 swords at most. But I have a question. If a sword is a sword formation composed of several flying swords, if you find part of it, should it be counted as one flying sword or multiple flying swords? Xuan briefly introduced the situation he was facing, but did not reveal the specific information of the nebula sword formation. Junior brother, you found a sword that can be used to practice the sword formation? That's quite lucky. Jian Wuxia's clear words were full of surprise. Although this situation is rare in the sword pool, it has happened before. There are many swords in the sword pool, such as the mother and child sword blade, the yin yang complementary sword, and the sword formation that junior brother mentioned. They are only considered a complete sword when they are all ready. Therefore, finding part of it, even if it is several flying swords, counts as one quota. Jian Wuxia said in a voice transmission. Then I'm relieved. Thank you, senior sister Wuxia, for clearing up my doubts. Xuan heaved a long sigh. If he didn't follow the rules, and was caught by the uncle who had reached the giant on stage, it would not be a good scene. After the 10 people gathered, the light column instantly wrapped the 10 people in it. In the chaos, the 10 people appeared in the familiar sword hall. Xuan brought 5 flying swords, and came to the outside of the sword hall. He took the fat bird Feng Falcon from a disciple of the sword hall. Sitting cross-legged on the broad light blue wings of the Feng Falcon, feeling the whistling wind, he felt very happy. Back in the cave, he took out 5 4th grade flying swords from the storage bag, and inserted the 4 nebula swords into the Yangtze sword sheath at the same time. At first, only the Zunli sword lightning without a specific form entered the scabbard, followed by the 3rd grade Zidian sword, the 4th grade Fenglui sword, and the mysterious emerald green sword. Then there is the 4th grade Lion sword and the 4th grade Zingan swords. The scabbard started with the root of no flying swords, and was unwilling to have any relationship with any flying sword. Slowly, it changed to the root of a single flying sword, allowing a certain flying sword to be fixedly inserted for a certain period of time to slowly warm the sword body. Then, the flying swords were constantly changed, and until now, there are a large number of flying swords as spare tires, and any flying sword you want can be replaced. Unconsciously, the once simple scabbard has opened its harem road. Xuan looked at the quaint scabbard that was stuffed to the brim, and was filled with emotion. Ignoring the scabbard and its harem swords, Xuan brought the Lion sword to a remote corner of the mountain. passing through the pink miasma that made people think about everything. Lu Xuan came to a bamboo with a strange shape. The main trunk of the bamboo was like a crystal jade. At the junction with the spiritual soil, a large number of developed rhizomes protruded from the soil, densely packed together, and each rhizome had tiny cracks. As soon as Lu Xuan appeared, many cracks opened one after another, and countless noisy and strange sounds rushed into his ears, making him feel dizzy. When Lu Xuan was about to cast a purification spell to calm himself down, a grey vine quickly crawled out of the pink miasma, and countless slender rhizomes were like grey tentacles, blocking all the cracks on the bamboo rhizomes without missing a single one. Chapter 423, The Spiritual Seed of a Giant and True Person. The magic sound bamboo, which was filled with many grey and slender vines of the demon ghost vine, couldn't help but make a lascivious sound, making the scene in front of him even more unbearable to look at. This magic sound bamboo, planted near these 10 magic fairy peaches, is a bastard. It didn't learn anything else, but it learned this unorthodox skill. I don't know what kind of light ball reward it will get when it is fully mature. Seeing this, Lu Xuan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He let the demon ghost vine withdraw from the magic sound bamboo, which had already entered the mature stage, and gently slashed it with the silver white short sword in his hand. There was a loud hum. The sword energy and thunder sound whistled past, shaking the many cracks on the roots of the magic sound bamboo to surge out. All the noisy and strange sounds in the ears disappeared instantly, and only the remnant of thunder echoed in the ears, and the sound contained the power of Buddhism. It is worthy of being the sword energy and thunder sound, so fierce and domineering. If the thunder sound sword is used to stimulate the sword energy and thunder sound for a long time, to cultivate the magic sound bamboo, I wonder what it will look like when it matures. Lu Xuan simply experimented with the effect of the thunder sound sword on the magic sound bamboo, and thought secretly in his heart. He returned to the spiritual field, and inspected the details of the many spiritual plants in the spiritual field. A large number of water fireflies have matured. Lu Xuan's spiritual consciousness swept over the remaining more than 100 blue and slender spiritual herbs in the spiritual field, and found that the progress bars under more than 40 water fireflies were fully filled. Before entering the sword pool, many water fireflies had already fully matured, so Lu Xuan simply saved more, so that he could open as many as he could at one time. He picked all the mature water fireflies. A total of 45 water fireflies were mature, and the average quality was pretty good, with many good quality and even several top quality. After picking, more than 40 faintly flickering white light balls appeared in the spiritual field. Lu Xuan passed through the many light balls like the wind, like a dragonfly skimming the water, gently touching the surface of the light balls. More than 40 light balls exploded into countless light balls, condensing into thin and long rivers of light, pouring into Lu Xuan's body. In the sea of consciousness, thoughts flew by like a horse watching lantern. Harvest a 2nd grade water firefly grass. Gain 1 year of cultivation. Harvest a 2nd grade water firefly grass. Obtain the 3rd grade talisman water dragon talisman. Various rewards came one after another, appearing in Lu Xuan's hands, in his danshan, in his sea of consciousness. 12 of the 45 mature water fireflies brought cultivation rewards. It added 18 years of cultivation to Lu Xuan. The spiritual energy in the meridians continued to rise like a tide, and Lu Xuan quickly practiced the great 5-element gong to quickly absorb and refine the rich spiritual power that appeared out of thin air. I'm one step closer to the late stage of foundation building. Lu Xuan felt the spiritual liquid rising in his danshan and said secretly, at most, I can plant water fireflies 3 more times to break through to the late stage of foundation building. He seemed to have an epiphany, knowing that he was not far away from the late stage of foundation building. After the foundation building period, I don't know how much spiritual power is needed to break through each realm. At most, I can break through to the late stage of foundation building by cultivating water fireflies 3 times, which is already quite fast. If I practice normally, with my aptitude and bones, I'm afraid there will be no hope in this life. Lu Xuan couldn't help but sigh. There are still more than 70 water fireflies in the spiritual field, which is half more than the number of spiritual herbs Lu Xuan had left. The reason for this is that he plans to try to improve the 2nd grade water fireflies, so that after breaking through the Dan formation in the future, the cultivation reward brought by the second grade water fireflies will be almost zero. More than 70 water fireflies can condense more than 300 spiritual seeds. Most of these spiritual seeds are used for normal cultivation, harvesting light balls, and condensing spiritual seeds. A small part is used for experiments, to induce spiritual seeds to mutate, so as to obtain benign mutated spiritual seeds. The rewards brought by the remaining light balls are still the same. The third grade talisman water dragon talisman, the third grade treasure water bead, the second grade soul enriching pill, and the second grade soul enriching pill recipe. After absorbing several soul enriching pill recipe experience packs again, Lu Xuan's understanding of refining this kind of pill has reached its limit, and he seems to have become an alchemist who has devoted his life to soul enriching pills. Just refining the youngling pill alone should have reached the Grandmaster level. Lu Xuan couldn't help but have an absurd thought in his mind. How did I, who devoted myself to cultivating spiritual plants, quietly become a Grandmaster of the Day of Alchemy? After picking the ripe water firefly grass, the spiritual plants that were close to maturity in the spiritual field included the 4th grade 5-element fruit, the magic sound bamboo, the 2nd ripe and 3rd grade mystic peach, the fiery fruit, and the ice divine fruit. Lu Xuan was not in a hurry and took care of and cultivated them with peace of mind, quietly waiting for the spiritual plants to mature. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 days had passed, and the process of condensing the spirit seeds of the wind and thunder sword grass and the water firefly grass had entered the late stage. On this day, Lu Xuan was cultivating spiritual plants, and the true disciple Jepu came to the mountain with familiarity. Junior brother Lu, I saw you cultivating spiritual plants as soon as I arrived. Jepu, who had black and white eyes, teased softly. Brother Jet, I haven't seen you for a while. Your cultivation has become much more sophisticated. Lu Xuan's keen sense of consciousness noticed that Jepu had entered a special state of unity between man and nature. His every move contained the principles of yin and yang, with softness in strength and hardness in softness, which was very natural. I have indeed gained some insights recently. I estimate that within 10 years, I will try to impact the Jindan realm. Jepu said calmly. Judging from his demeanor and tone, he seemed to have great confidence. Then I congratulate Brother Jen in advance. Lu Xuan's eyes revealed a hint of envy, and he smiled and bowed. It's too early for everything. Jepu changed the subject. Brother Lu, I came here this time to find you for an important matter. If you do it well, it will be a great opportunity. If you don't do it well, I believe that with your talent in spiritual plants, this situation is impossible. He believed in Lu Xuan's attainments in spiritual plants. Brother, can you tell me what it is specifically? Lu Xuan was aroused by his cautious look. It's like this. There is a Jindan uncle who has a 5th grade spirit seed in his hand, which is extremely rare even among 5th grade spirit plants. That uncle is not good at cultivating spirit plants, and he often travels around and enters various secret realms to practice and adventure. He doesn't have that much time to spend on spiritual plants, so he has been worried about cultivating spiritual plants. After learning about this situation, I recommended you, Junior Brother Lu, to that uncle. After hearing about your deeds in spiritual plants, the uncle became curious and asked me to come and ask you, Junior Brother. I wonder if Junior Brother Lu is willing to cultivate a 5th grade spirit seed for that Jindan uncle? Jepu asked seriously. I'm willing. Lu Xuan said without hesitation. 5th grade spirit seeds are something that can only be encountered by chance. Even with the powerful foundation of the Xianji insect, 5th grade spirit seeds cannot be mass produced. Only in various secret realms can this grade of spirit seeds be found occasionally. Lu Xuan had accumulated for many years and used all means to obtain a few 5th grade spiritual plants, some of which were evil spiritual plants that could not be seen in the light. Moreover, the spiritual seed was so valued by the Jindan Zenran, it must have its magical properties. How could Lu Xuan let go of such a good opportunity to get the light ball for free? Chapter 424 Pure Glass Tea. As for whether he could cultivate the 5th grade spiritual plant, Lu Xuan had no worries in this regard. He could learn the cultivation method and detailed status of the spiritual plant. As long as the cultivation conditions were not particularly difficult to meet, there would be no problem for Xuan. In addition to the light ball reward that only he knew about, the uncle of the master of the Jinden would naturally give him a certain reward for cultivating the 5th grade spiritual plant on behalf of the Jinden Zenran. At the same time, he could also make friends with the Jinden Zenran, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. The risk was very small and the benefits were great. How could Xuan not agree? I was right about you, junior brother. I will take you to Uncle Master Kingsu now. Seeing this, Jepu nodded with satisfaction and briefly introduced the situation of the Jinden Zenran to Xuan. From him, he learned that the uncle of the master of the Jinden was named Li Kingsu, also known as the Kingsu Zenran. He had entered the middle stage of the Jinden realm for decades, and was good at the way of elixir and talisman. During the brief introduction, the two came to the foot of the mountain. A black and white Teikai pattern suddenly appeared behind Jepu's head. The pattern rotated rapidly and grew rapidly. A yin and yang spiritual light shot out from it, wrapping the two, and merging them into the Teikai pattern. Junior brother Lu, we are here. After a few breaths, the two came to a huge cave full of fairy spirit. The cave stretched for hundreds of miles, and was suspended in the air. It was surrounded by pure spiritual energy as thick as clouds, and cranes flew out from time to time. After Jepu explained his intention to a strange beast guarding the bronze gate, he took Xuan into the cave. The two entered a quiet and elegant room. The room was simply decorated with only a green jade cushion. On the cushion, an old man with a long beard sat cross-legged. The old man took a long breath, as if he could turn into a breeze and float away at any time. He opened his eyes, and a hazy light flashed by. Looking at Xuan and the others, a kind smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Junior brother Jepu, you are here. I haven't seen you for a while. You have improved your cultivation a lot. Perhaps it won't be long before you and I can call each other brothers. This is junior brother Xuan, right? I have heard of your attainments in spiritual plants more than once. Disciple greets Uncle Li. Xuan hurriedly stepped forward and bowed respectfully to the old man. That is, true man Kingsu. Not bad, not bad. The old man with a long beard nodded slightly. I have already briefly introduced you to Jepu. I wonder if junior brother Lu is willing to cultivate a 5th grade spiritual seed for me. It is my honor to serve you, but please tell me about the spiritual seeds. Although Xuan could understand the relevant information about the spiritual plants, in order not to make the true man of Jinden suspicious, he still had to go through the necessary procedures. My cultivation has been stuck in a bottleneck for a long time. Recently, I accidentally got a good magical method, but I couldn't get into it after studying it for a long time, so I tried to get this 5th grade spiritual seed. The spiritual seed is called pure glazed tea. After it matures, it will be of great use to me in comprehending the cultivation method. The growth environment is extremely harsh and needs to be nurtured with pure spiritual energy at all times. But as far as I know, junior brother Lu has a broken secret realm of the sect. The spiritual energy in the secret realm is pure, so it shouldn't be difficult to cultivate it. I rarely have experience in cultivating spiritual plants. My lifespan is limited, and I can't spend extra time and energy on cultivating 5th grade spiritual plants. I heard that junior brother Lu is famous in this area, so I had the idea of letting junior brother you cultivate it on my behalf. The clear-headed old man slowly introduced the origin of the spiritual seed and the reason for the invitation. Excuse me, junior brother, I wonder if my uncle has considered this. Xuan paused and continued. It takes 10 years for a 5th grade spirit seed to grow from roots to full maturity, and dozens or even hundreds of years are also common. With such a long cultivation period, I'm afraid that I will delay your progress in practicing the technique. Haha, I'm very thoughtful. The old man with a long beard laughed heartily. But don't worry, I have only learned that magical method not long ago. The conditions for practicing the method are very complicated. It takes a long time to prepare in the early stage, and the difficulty of practicing is extremely high. Even if I wait until the pure glass tea matures, I can only practice to the entry stage at most. Xuan nodded to show that he understood, and was secretly shocked in his heart. What kind of magical method requires a Jinden Zenran to prepare for 10 years? And he specially got the 5th grade pure glass tea to improve his understanding? Isn't it a technique at the Yuanying level? His thoughts were flying in his mind, but he made a solemn promise to the old man. I, nephew, will do my best to cultivate the spiritual plant and help my uncle solve his problems. And for the reward of the light ball, he added secretly, okay, then I'm relieved. I'll leave everything to you, nephew Lu. When the spiritual plant matures, I'll reward you. King Xuan said with a smile. A light green spiritual seed quietly emerged in his hand. The spiritual seed was oval in shape, with a bright spiritual light. Inside, a thin tea leaf could be vaguely seen floating up and down, revealing a hint of the meaning of one leaf, one world. When Lu Xuan took the spiritual seed, a wisp of clear air spread from the part that was in contact with the spiritual seed all the way to the depths of the sea of consciousness. The sea of consciousness suddenly became clear and his thoughts were extremely active. It's worthy of being a 5th grade spiritual seed that my uncle specially got for the middle stage of the Jinden. The aura emitted by the spiritual seed alone is almost as effective as the purification mantra. Lu Xuan sighed secretly. The two of them took the initiative to say goodbye. Back in the cave, Lu Xuan came to the spiritual field and couldn't wait to take out the pure glazed tea spiritual seed. The earth-inducing technique was naturally performed, and the spirit seed was placed in the spirit soil. Then his mind was focused on the spirit seed in the shallow layer of the spirit soil, and suddenly a thought emerged from his mind. Pure glazed tea, a 5th grade spiritual plant, needs to be cultivated and nurtured with pure spiritual breath during its growth. Ordinary spiritual soil and spiritual energy have almost no positive effect on tea trees, and can even delay the growth of spiritual plants. After the mature tea leaves are consumed by the cultivators, they can greatly improve their understanding and last for a long time, until they slowly disappear. At the same time, they will also form a pure spiritual aura on the surface of the cultivators' bodies, which has a purifying effect on evil spirits and filthy things, and all evil cannot invade. 5 grade spiritual tea that can greatly improve understanding. Although he had already learned about the general use of the spiritual plant from true man King Su, after learning about its effects in detail, Lu Xuan couldn't help but exclaimed. No wonder a cultivator in the middle stage of Jinden came here specially. Such effects are worth spending so much money. Well, there is a high probability that relevant light balls will be opened as rewards in the future. Lu Xuan thought of this, and joy surged in his heart. All along, his comprehension and aptitude were extremely mediocre, which made his cultivation level improve slowly. The time and energy required to practice various techniques was much greater than that of other inner sect disciples. He relied on various light ball rewards to get to where he is today. If he could get relevant light ball rewards, he could make up for this shortcoming. Chapter 425, Disillusionment of the 5-element formation. As early as when he was in Linyang Market, Lu Xuan had obtained a tea plant, the 2nd grade King Neo spiritual tea. When the tea leaves matured, they had the effect of clearing the mind and making one wise. The purification mantra that Lu Xuan has been using till now was obtained from the light ball after the tea leaves matured. However, compared with the 5th grade King Jingliuli tea, there is a world of difference. King Jingliuli tea has a very high growth environment for spiritual energy and spiritual soil. Ordinary spiritual soil even has a reverse effect on the growth of spiritual tea. Then just put this spiritual seed in that incomplete secret realm. The spiritual energy in the secret realm is pure and rich, and it has not been polluted and assimilated by the mundane breath, turbid air, foul air, etc. It is not a big problem to collect some pure spiritual energy. As for the spiritual soil, the spiritual field covered with Wu Lingtu in front of us has little effect on the King Jingliuli tea spiritual seed. It is better to directly use the King Ling Ki to warm it. With more spiritual plants cultivated, Lu Xuan found that, although most spiritual plants need to be planted in spiritual soil, there are also a few that are not included, especially high-grade spiritual plants. Among the spiritual plants he planted, the phoenix tree, dragon skeleton grass, and thunder tree can grow normally without spiritual soil. Next time I go to the secret realm, I will plant it again, and bring the dragon skeleton grass with me. The consumption rate of the 3-grade Xuan heavy water and the soul cultivating true liquid obtained earlier was not slow. After cultivating 3 dragon skeleton grasses for such a long time, only a small part was left. Lu Xuan decided to bring the dragon skeleton grass into the incomplete secret realm next time. The spiritual energy in the secret realm is richer and purer than that in the inner sect. With the spiritual liquid of Xuan Linglin, the dragon skeleton grass can grow better when transplanted into the secret realm. He thought in his heart, and took the pure glass tea spirit seed out of the spiritual soil, and placed it in the gluttonous insect capsule to maintain its vitality. Xuan was happy to get a 5th grade spirit seed unexpectedly, and the speed of patrolling the spiritual field was much lighter. He carefully felt the growth of each spiritual plant, made subtle adjustments according to their needs, and tried his best to meet them, so that they could grow healthily and smoothly. The first wind and thunder sword grass used for seed condensation has undergone great changes. Xuan's spiritual sense is keen to notice that the 3 points of energy inside the dark sword grass have gradually evolved into 3 spiritual seeds in the making. The spiritual seeds are full of vitality and slowly wander inside the sword grass plant, absorbing the vitality and subtle sword energy inside the sword grass. Xuan has long recorded every precaution that occurs during the seed condensation process. Seeing the wind and thunder sword grass like this, he kept it in mind. In addition, there is another wind and thunder sword grass with 4 points of energy in its body. The energy is sharp and restrained, powerful and fragile, with a sense of weird contradiction, but harmonious and natural. This wind and thunder sword grass has condensed 4 spiritual seeds, which is not bad. Xuan secretly sighed. It is difficult for high-grade spiritual plants to condense spiritual seeds, and it is even more difficult to obtain spiritual seeds in batches. Therefore, with the strength of the Xianji insect, countless sword cultivators and the entire sword hall have experienced countless years of exploration and attempts, but there are only more than 20 methods to condense the seeds of the 3rd grade sword grass. For the 5th grade spiritual seeds, only the sword pool or other blessed places occasionally breed one. Therefore, when Shenyi learned that Xuan could condense a new 3rd grade sword grass spiritual seed by himself, he was so excited that he even gave Xuan the quota to enter the sword pool in advance. Xuan came to another wind and thunder sword grass, and his spiritual consciousness carefully guided the deep black sword light emerging from the sword grass. Compress the many sword lights as thin as hair together, and integrate them into the plant. Then, the vitality in the sword grass is aroused, wrapping the extremely concentrated deep black sword light, and slowly warming it. Next, if the key is condensed, it will be the first step to complete the condensation. Since the wind and thunder sword grass spiritual seeds are all transformed by putting ordinary sword grass spiritual seeds into the Yangtze sword sheath, the growth progress is different. The other wind and thunder sword grass is still in the growth stage, and is not qualified for condensation for the time being. Xuan then came to 2 4th grade sword grasses. The sound of swords clanging and thunder roared. The silver-white short sword turned into a streak of light, dancing in the air. Xuan pinched the sword formula, and sword beams like owls flew out from the sword blade at an extremely fast speed, leaving countless after images in the air. Under his spiritual control, all of them flew into the sword thousand owl spirit plant. On the sword grass, which seemed to be composed of many strange long swords, there were dozens of footless owls with wings, like sharp swords on the top. Sensing the sword energy of the thousand owl sword formula used by Xuan, dozens of owls' wings vibrated together, and sword energy burst out, as if they could manifest their true form at any time, and fly out from the tree trunk. The 4th grade sword thousand owl has also begun to enter the mature stage. Xuan sighed, and his eyes shifted to the sword peacock next to him. Dozens of sword energy flew out of the Lion sword, constantly changing in the air, forming a prototype of a sword formation, and flew into the sword peacock. The plant was stimulated by the numerous sword energies, and suddenly it was like a peacock spreading its tail. Dozens or even hundreds of flying swords were like peacock feathers, layered, beautiful and gorgeous, revealing a strong murderous intent. His mastery of the peacock sword formation was far inferior to the thousand owl sword art that he had obtained for a long time, but at least it could be cultivated normally. There was no way, if he lacked talent, he could make up for it with diligence. In order to make this 4th grade sword peacock grow normally, Xuan had put in a lot of hard work. After cultivating many sword grasses, he continued to inspect the spiritual field. This 5-element fruit matured earlier than I expected. Xuan's expression flashed a hint of surprise. The 5-element fruit spiritual plant in front of him had abundant 5-element spiritual power. At the top, there was a 5-color spiritual fruit that was extremely eye-catching. The spiritual fruit exuded a faint fragrance, and the spiritual energy in the body was ready to move. The 5-element spiritual power on the surface was running, cleverly integrated into the spiritual fruit, but clearly separated. Xuan circulated his spiritual power, and the 5-element of spiritual power appeared on his palm. He carefully picked the 5-element fruit. 5-element fruit, a 4th grade spiritual fruit, cultivated with the power of the 5-element, is the main material for refining the 5-element pill. It's a good quality spiritual fruit. There should be no problem in handing it into the Dan Palace. Xuan whispered. The 5-element fruit was commissioned by the Dan Palace to plant. The second batch of Kangyuan grass, which was also commissioned, has entered the mature stage. The 4th grade 5-element fruit has not matured until now. As he sighed, his eyes were attracted by the white light ball at the top of the plant. He reached out and touched it lightly, and the light ball exploded into countless light spots. The light spots faintly had 5-color spiritual power changes, and they all poured into Xuan's body. Harvest a 4th grade 5-element fruit, and obtain the 5th grade formation, the illusionary 5-element formation. The thought flashed through his mind, and 5 small flags appeared in Xuan's hands along with the formation plate. The small flag has the 5-element of spiritual power, gold, wood, water, fire, and earth. With a gentle wave, the corresponding 5-element of spiritual power on the flag surged, causing the runes on the array plates to light up, and the spiritual light to flash. Xuan's mind was focused on the array plate and the array flag, and he instantly learned the detailed information about the array. The illusion 5-element array, a 5th grade array, was created by the 5-element array flag. It combines the killing array and the illusion array in one. It can derive various 5-element spirit beasts, which take turns to attack the monks and monsters that enter the array, and can seriously injure or even kill the monks in the early stage of the giant formation. Right square bracket. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.